of GCR. I am Glenn. Griffin's over there. And for these shows, we are always happy to have our friend Patrick Stevens with us, who will, again, actually, we haven't even talked about it. I haven't even finalized the deal to make sure that Patrick's going to be joining us every week during college basketball season. He drives a hard bargain.
Here we go.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. We're going to be chatting with all of the coaches from the local programs throughout the course of the morning. Loyola, Mount St. Mary's, Towson, Coppin State, UMBC, Morgan State, and Navy in that order. Patrick, what is it that you are most interested in learning from these coaches during the course of the morning? Because my guess is you know more about some of their teams than even they do.
I wouldn't go that far, but I do think, first of all, catching up on any sort of injury updates for sure in the preseason. I think you get a sense of teams in the summer as best you can. Things can kind of change if there's players that aren't available. So that's certainly in play there. Later on, for sure, kind of getting a sense of Jon Perry in his first year, moving over a chair at Navy, taking over for the retired Ed DeChellis. And certainly some interesting teams around here as well. Mount St. Mary's coming off of its NCAA tournament berth. Towson having Tyler Tejada and Dylan Williamson back for one more run. Is this the year? Like, it's the story, right? It's the number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5 story with Towson. Is this the year Towson can break through? And I would tell you an interesting subplot at Loyola, a team that I think was better than a lot of people thought it would be last year, despite some roster construction, no fault of Josh Loeffler, just didn't have much size on that team. I think they've corrected a lot of that, and I think that they're going to be a team that's capable of competing in the Patriot League. What does UMBC do as they head into year 5 under Jim Ferry? And then obviously, Coppin State looking to try to make another step forward. And Morgan State, which has just kind of been stuck in the middle of the MEAC, can they get out of that sort of 7-7 range? I mean, they've won 7 games in the league 5 years in a row.
Wow.
I mean, they've just been very much mid-pack since the pandemic hit. So can they take a step forward and maybe be a factor in that MEAC race?
Let's talk big picture before we get into the first local coach that's going to join us, right? As we get into college basketball season, which we're only about a week away from the start of college basketball season, biggest storylines to you on nationally across the board, biggest storylines, what are the big discussion points going to be in the first couple of months?
Well, I think one of the big things just overall is, both Houston and Purdue have been in the hunt. Kelvin Sampson and Matt Painter have been in the hunt, and those are probably 2 of the most tested teams at this point. And so can one of those 2 guys land a national title? And on the flip side of things, a guy that won his title a long, long time ago, does Rick Pitino have enough at St. John's, a team that was great for the regular season last year? There's obviously a lot of buzz about what he's been able to do with the Red Storm. Overall, I think one of the great questions is the ACC going to be as just much of an afterthought beyond its top 2 or 3 teams as it was last year? That was essentially, it was Duke, Clemson, and Louisville, and you're kind of hunting for what else they had. North Carolina was able to slip into the tournament at the end. So those are certainly some of the things in mind at this point. The weird thing with all these supersized conferences, and let's not forget, like the SEC had 14 tournament teams. Like, what's the encore for that? I don't think they're going to be able to, in aggregate, win 89% of their non-conference games again like they did last year. But there's still a lot of talent loaded up in that league. And so what's next for that group of teams? And there's obviously some noteworthy new coaches scattered all over the place this season. I think about Sean Miller going to Texas as we talk a little bit about
forgotten all about that.
Talking about the SEC. But that's one. He was replaced at Xavier by Richard Pitino, who came from New Mexico. I mean, you could start doing all these dominoes and whatnot. But those are
Texas A&M had to get a new coach.
Texas A&M had to get a new coach, Bucky McMillan, which is going to be a really interesting experiment. Bucky McMillan's a guy came from Samford, and before that was a super successful high school coach in Birmingham. A guy that plays a ton of guys. I'm really interested to see how that shakes out. Obviously, Buzz Williams coming to Maryland, Kevin Willard going to Villanova.
Wait, Kevin Willard went to Villanova.
Kevin Willard went to Villanova. How about that?
That's weird.
They're playing at Georgetown early, right? Like
they are playing at.
I know they're at Georgetown.
There's a whole story.
And we're all going to
Maryland fans
to throw eggs at him.
There's been a lot.
I was up at the Garden the other day when he was talking about that. So they come to Georgetown on Feb 7.
Oh, okay.
So it's not super early.
Not early at all, actually.
Griffin's really disappointed he bought all those eggs for nothing.
Well, maybe they're really good then for that purpose.
So yes, we will talk about some of those things as we get into the start of the season. And you didn't mention BYU in there.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a major storyline as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I was distracted by something. Obviously, super recruit. I'm trying to
AJ DeBansta.
I was trying to remember the pronunciation there.
I can't guarantee that either. Okay. That's just me guessing.
I read the great story in the Washington Post last week about his dad, basically, about how that's been a guy that has sort of controlled access and whatnot. So yeah, BYU has thrown a ton of money around, and they're prepared. It looks like to be a significant factor. Do you know who they open up with? Villanova.
Oh, how interesting!
Opening night. I think that game's in Vegas, if I recall right. Definitely an interesting situation out there. The Big 12 is just loaded with fascinating teams. Whether we talked about Houston already, Kansas always interesting, Iowa State, a number of programs, Arizona, which feels like Arizona has been knocking on the door of breaking out here for about 15 years. Is this a year that finally happens? So, another interesting subplot to me is now that all those West Coast Big Ten teams have had a year to figure out how to deal with.
Is there less
wear and tear? Like, I mean, UCLA went out and basically was like, well, we're not going to do the CBS Sports Classic anymore because it's one less East Coast trip that we have to do as a result. So they had been in there with that. That was a pre-Christmas event with Kentucky.
I don't even remember where that event was.
Well, it moved around.
All
so
right.
It's in Atlanta, New York. I think Indy had it a couple times, but it kind of a Champions Classic type of thing there, where it moves around and made for TV with Carolina, Kentucky, and Ohio State. So. At this point, like, that's one less trip they have to make, and they obviously had the issue with the wildfires last year that threw a wrench into so much, not just for them but for everybody in that portion of LA. So, I think they're going to be pretty good. A name to watch, Donovan Dent, the New Mexico transfer. I think is going to be one of the best players in the country. He had a fabulous season with the Lobos last year, and he is a guy that if he can handle Mick Cronin and that dynamic, then I think UCLA is going to be a really, really good team this season.
All right, it's time for us to start previewing the local teams. And first up on the hot seat, he is getting ready to start his second season as the head coach at Loyola. He is Coach Josh Loeffler, and he is up first on our college basketball preview show. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Of course, you guys kicking off the season as part of the Hall of Fame event at CFG Bank Arena, taking on Towson. Let me just start there. Being a part of that event and all local teams, we oftentimes around here people talk fondly about the old Battle of Baltimore, and this isn't quite that, but a celebration of local basketball all in one centralized location. What does it mean to you to be a part of that?
Well, I think it's hopefully going to be a great event for the city. Hopefully brings out a lot of fans and highlights that there's great basketball in this city and region. I think CFG has done a great job with their arena, and it's a really nice place to play. It's a really nice venue. Some of the WNBA games that were there during the last season were certainly highlights of the WNBA season. So I think that we're excited to play in such a nice venue that's been renovated so well. And I think it makes all the sense in the world for the programs that are playing in this event to take part in it, because We want to not just have great basketball, but we want to have a region where basketball matters, where college basketball matters, and do something for the people that support us with a really good event.
I'm looking at your roster, Coach, and I can't help but notice there's a couple of freshmen that are bigs. There's a transfer that's a big. Is it safe to say that was a priority for you this past offseason?
Yeah, it's safe to say. I mean, I don't think we're unique in that way. I think it's a priority for a lot of colleges, a lot of college basketball programs. But we definitely got bigger this offseason, not just in terms of front court recruits, but I do think that we got positionally bigger as well, with some size and length across the board. And the last time I checked, it's a game for bigger people. The rim is 10 feet high, so it's good if you're close. We tried to address, like a lot of people, we tried to address some size with our recruiting.
Josh, I know there's also a significant international influence as well with this first full recruiting cycle. Kind of go through that a little bit, and just how important is it to tap into those possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to get good players wherever you can get them. I think everybody is going to have a niche in this market in terms of recruiting. It's certainly different than it used to be, given the portal allowing transfers to leave without sitting a year. It's just a very different landscape for recruiting, because I know I was listening a little bit to you guys talking about UCLA, right? They got Donovan Dent right away, and in a previous lifetime that wouldn't have happened as easily. So everybody's trying to navigate this and find the best talent for their program. And one thing that we found was that we had relationships with some individuals from overseas, and we were able to utilize those relationships to attract what we think are some pretty good recruits and some pretty good players, and hopefully enhance the program, because we were able to take advantage of some prior relationships that we had in other countries.
He is Josh Loeffler, Loyola basketball coach. He's with us here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Coach, Patrick was just talking about it, that yes, the record ultimately was not necessarily what you wanted a year ago, but for year one, and given the limitations, it seemed like there were an awful lot of good things. Did you feel, I'm not trying to claim like a moral victory or something like that, but did you feel like you had set sort of the barometer by which, okay, that if that's year one, we feel pretty good about where we might be going moving forward?
I think that we competed at a higher level as the year went on. I think that we got some really good performances down the stretch. I think that we took some steps as a team last year. We had some injuries that set us back early. We had some real growth from some young players. I was very proud of the performances of some of our older guys who played their best basketball in college, and had some of their best performances down the stretch as we got into the playoff run. And I did think that we were playing a level of basketball at the end where no one in the Patriot League was looking forward to playing us. And unfortunately, we lost in overtime to Bucknell, who was the regular season champs. That ended our season. But early in the year, we were not in that position when we went up to Bucknell. So I thought there was great growth as the year went on. I think we laid a foundation, and I think that we've been able to see some growth from guys that we retained, and I think the program has benefited from some continuity with some of our players, and I think that we're in a position to take a step. But there's a lot of factors that go into that too. You got to stay healthy. You got to continue to improve every day. I want to win more. We all want to win more. I think we took a nice step last year, but ultimately we're here to win, and we've got to go get that done now.
Josh, on the continuity and retention piece, Jacob Theodosio, Jordan Stemke, Braden Speed, all guys that are back that averaged double figures or close to it last year. Braden Speed, I think, at 8 points a game. How have all of those guys kind of settled into their second year in your system, and just how vital are those guys taking extra steps this year going to be to get into where you want to get to?
Well, I think they're more comfortable with what we do, and that could be as simple as like, this is how we get ready for practice. This is how we prepare for games. Like having a comfort level and a familiarity with what's expected of you every day should allow you to be better. And I think we're seeing that for each of them. I also think they each had very productive off seasons. They worked really hard. They're all bigger, stronger, older guys now, and we need them to perform more efficiently than last year, with better leadership than last year. We need them to ultimately be better versions of themselves than they were last year. It's not going to be linear, right? They're going to have ups and downs just like anybody. But I'm really pleased with the growth that they've shown. They're all those three guys, and Tyson Commander, some of our other returning guys are all really great workers. And that's been great too. We have a group that really enjoys being in the gym and putting in the work. So I think retaining guys with that kind of work ethic is huge for your program, because it sets the tone for how you go through things every day.
Josh, of the group of guys that maybe you brought up some of the injuries, some of the guys that were a little bit more limited that might be looking to take another step forward, or even from the newcomers, are there guys that already you can sense are going to have a larger role with this team this season?
That's a good question. One of the things for us is that I actually think we have very good depth right now. If we are fully healthy on November 3rd or whenever, I think there's a lot of guys that you can put into a basketball game and feel pretty good about for us. So the size of the role is going to be really interesting this year, partially because I think there's a lot of guys who are pushing for a role in this rotation, pushing for a role in this program. All of the newcomers have demonstrated that they can play college basketball and help. All of our returning guys showed on some level last year that they could do the same. So one thing that I really like is just the competitive nature of every day has been, something that you hope for, because that causes everyone to raise their game. So it's hard to predict exactly what the roles will be, but I'm most excited about the fact that I think we've got a lot of guys who can carve out a role based on their abilities and their work ethic. And I think having great depth is something that we always want to strive for.
Josh, to kind of build off a couple things we've already talked about, size and newcomers, Everett Barnes and Emmett Adair, a couple freshmen. I know that you've been very excited about Emmett Adair from Australia, Everett Barnes out of Father Judge up in Philadelphia. Just how have you seen those guys come along here over the last few months, and do you see both of those guys being able to impact things pretty quickly for you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they're both capable of helping us. And doing so early. They're both very mature in how they approach their daily work. They're sponges. They learn. They love to be coached. They're easy to coach, and they value a lot of the details that sometimes you have to teach younger guys a little bit more of. They both care about defense. They both want to rebound. They're not just guys who want to score all the time, although they both can score. So I think that they have really shown the ability to grasp, what's going on in a college basketball program and run with it. And you never really know until you have a freshman how they're going to learn and how they're going to absorb information and how they're going to be coachable. And those two guys have really demonstrated that they are. So you just see them get better every day. You see them guard better every day. You see them communicate better every day. And I think that each of them will help us, and hopefully early on.
I was looking at the schedule, Coach. A trip to Kentucky. I know that's the business trip for everybody involved, but, what does it mean to be able to give these guys an opportunity to go play at a place like that, and sort of the history that goes into that?
I mean, that is part of why you go there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we don't have other options for travel. You can find a wide variety of high major, big time programs to go play. Kentucky is one of those institutions. Rupp Arena is one of those places that people talk about as they get older. you can find Loyola alums who went to Kentucky, who went to Rupp Arena, and they still talk about it now. And I think that it's obviously a great opportunity to grow as a team and to compete and do all those things. But, yeah, it does provide an opportunity for our guys to have an experience that is something that's unique and, very rare in America. Like the fan base that is almost cult-like in their following of the Wildcats. And I think it's a really cool environment. And, you want to give these guys who work so hard some great experiences. And that's part of why we chose to do that, and we hope that it is that for these young men.
Josh, you mentioned over the summer how much you'd really liked how Tyson Commander was handling his last offseason. What kind of stood out about that, and do you see him as being poised to really be able to finish his career off the way he'd like?
I think Tyson had an excellent offseason in terms of his approach daily. His strength training, his nutrition, his approach every day was truly, it was like a professional approach. And I think he saw some real fruits of that labor. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's more poised on the floor because he's older and he's played more basketball. So we're very excited about him. He's been a great presence for us every day. He brings he brings a certain level of calm to our team. He's hard to rattle, and he brings a poise when he has the basketball in his hands and a steady reliability. And I think that's just so important when you have, especially a senior. But he did a great job. He's done a terrific job of preparing for this fourth season of his in college basketball, and I couldn't be happier with the work that he put in. So I hope that he gets everything he deserves from that.
Josh Loeffler, Loyola, as we mentioned, opens up the season, taking on Towson as part of the Hall of Fame event at CFG Bank Arena on November 3rd. A great night for local hoops. Coach, best of luck this season. We'll, of course, be seeing you over there. Really appreciate you taking the time for us this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you.
It's Josh Loeffler, Loyola head coach. Patrick Stevens, your thumbnail on the Hounds.
Going to be better. There's probably going to be some moments, given the number of young guys that they have, that are going to be problems. But for the most part, I expect that team to be at least a mid-pack Patriot League team. The interesting thing in the Patriot League, and we'll get into it a little bit more with Navy, is outside of Navy and BU, there's really not a lot of knowns in that league. And I know with doing my work for Blue Ribbon Yearbook, like I felt very,
somebody would say that about college basketball.
You could,
somebody
but you don't expect that in the Patriot League, right?
Right?
Like I mean,
no, typically yes, that's a great point.
You would expect there to be a little more continuity there. Like I feel pretty good about Navy and BU. I was kind of saying with with kind of doing the 1 to 10 for Blue Ribbon Yearbook, like I felt pretty good about Navy and BU 1-2. But from 3 to 9, I thought you really could have mixed and matched in a lot of different ways. Because American graduated a lot. Bucknell lost its best player to Alabama. Colgate, not quite what we've seen from Colgate in the past last year, but still pretty good. And then fast rising teams like Loyola in the mix. And so, I think you look at Theodosio and Speed and Stemke and Commander and David Brown. And so there's a foundation there of guys that have been in the system for at least a year. And I thought that for the most part, there were some matchups last year for Loyola that were just bad. Like when they played American, it was not good. They did not have an answer for the 6'10" guy, Matt Rogers. But I thought a lot of other times, they really exceeded, kind of what people thought they were going to be able to do. So I see them as being able to take another step forward this season. Would not be surprised if they could finally escape the opening round of the Patriot League tournament, which is something I think they've done one time since entering the league, finishing in the top 6. Would not be stunned to see that happen.
We should mention, you brought up Blue Ribbon. I would feel like this is a good time to remind everybody this is a great way to get ready for college basketball season.
Blue Ribbon Yearbook.
And of course, Patrick does basic. At this point, I feel like half of the book.
Not quite half, but 20%.
Yeah,
20%.
Yeah, it's an awful lot. It's an awful lot of it,
including most of the teams that we're talking about today.
And it's a tremendous resource, particularly at this point as you don't know. You've forgotten. Dude, where did my players go? Like, this is a great way to get caught up on where everybody is and what you need to know about these teams as the year gets underway. And for everything you need to know about high school sports here in the state of Maryland, countysports.zone. It is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Scores, schedules, getting into playoff season and fall sports. Countysports.zone is the place to find out about all of it. Next up on the hot seat, it couldn't have gone a whole lot better for him in his first season as head coach out at Mount St. Mary's. He is Donny Lind, and he is with us once again here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us, as always.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
We were just sort of joking about, dude, where's my players? I imagine you know that all too well, right? Go win a championship, riding high, and then the realities of this is how college basketball works it sets in. Is that something that you just say, hey, that's part of the deal? I knew exactly what I signed up for, and we're ready to go with not all completely, but with a lot of new faces this year.
Yeah, it's certainly not something that, you're going to hear me complaining about very often. Certainly those guys that were here last year did everything they could to obviously propel us to a championship. And then, they have opportunities to, further themselves or better their careers. And, how could I stand in the way of that? They gave everything they could to our program, and shoot, we had multiple guys, graduate and finish their career, get their degrees from Mount St. Mary's before, either going pro or choosing to find another school. So, certainly not going to hold that against them.
Donny, when you look at that run there in Atlantic City last season, how much did that kind of change how you viewed that first season, and how much do you think it changed the way both your players from that team and the ones that you're recruiting in March and April to add in viewed things differently, maybe?
Yeah, I think the winning in March, is what we're all striving to do, and so there's certainly a feeling of success about doing that. But I'm not naive enough to not understand that there's a ton of luck involved in winning in a one bid league. And so what I really, took was that we were able to build a culture and a group that was resilient and tough and able to overcome adversity. And that was the whole goal from the beginning. And so, we were super successful in bringing a group together that had a mindset of togetherness and sacrifice so that we could have success, when it matters the most. And so, for those guys who, whether they choose to come back or choose to leave, they have those lessons. And, we are, as basketball coaches, we are still educators. We're still trying to help these guys at a formative time of their life. And I feel like we were able to do that with the group last year. Then, we can head into the spring and we have a little bit more name recognition. We have a little bit more visibility. We have, the ability to connect with certain recruits that, maybe, we wouldn't be able to connect with otherwise, because as it's now going into my second year as a head coach, they have a belief that they want to come to a winning program. This is one that is going to continue to have those opportunities.
Donny, as I look at what you do bring back, I would assume that Xavier Lipscomb is pretty high on that list of guys going to be important to trying to do this again. The fact that he's been in the program for as long as he has, how much do you see that from him leadership-wise? And is there maybe a next level where he is a little bit more of an alpha for this team?
Yeah, X has been a leader. Shoot, I coached him his freshman year at Radford, and he was a leader there as a freshman. He's a natural-born leader, and guys listen to him. They're willing to follow him because he sets such a great example with his work ethic and his talk and communication on the court. And so, bringing back the leader on a team, whether he's your leading scorer or not, really helps, because if you bring in 9 new guys, you're going to have some level, having your leader back allows there to be a faster, smoother transition for those new guys. And so, he has provided a ton in the locker room, and he's gotten better on the court. He's become a better player, a more consistent shooter, a better finisher around the basket. He's always been kind of a really good guard defender, your guys, I'm not going to let your guys score. But, wasn't one to, take very many risks, wasn't one to try to go get the steal. He's kind of embraced some of that, trying to get more deflections, trying to get his hand on the ball for a steal a little bit more often. So it's been fun to watch him grow over this summer, and really buy into being the leader of trying to do something that, hasn't been done here in a really, really long time. And that's go to back-to-back NCAA tournaments.
Arlandis Keys is another guy who's back for you guys in the backcourt. And I know you didn't need as much from him as you're probably going to need from him this season. How has he kind of developed and taken a step forward in this summer?
Yeah, the big thing for Landis when he decided to come back was, we had to have a real honest conversation of like, what's that going to look like? And if you want the role that you say you want, which is not to be our sixth or seventh guy, right, is to step in and be a major contributor. How do you get that? And, for him, it was a consistency thing. It was trying to be a more consistent player in practice every day, more consistent when we play, because Landis is a winner and Landis is a gamer. And those guys are great and fans love them, but man, they drive coaches nuts sometimes because you see it, when with 4 minutes left in the game, but you don't see it every day in practice. And, he's been really honest and true to trying to improve that. And, to see him grow, he's, shot the cover off the ball since since he came back from injury in Atlantic City, but really throughout practice here this fall. But he's doing more than just that. He's touching the paint and making plays for other guys. He's committed to being a better defender, which is the thing that kind of kept him from playing as much as he wanted to play last year, was consistent defense. And so he's really made some commitments there. And it's been great to have him back. And he's assumed more of a leadership role. And Lance's been a part of some good programs. He talks the talk and walks the walk with our guys. And so the two of those guys in the backcourt with a ton of experience, know me, know what I need, willing to talk to the guys in the locker room. As coaches, we get a couple hours a day with them. The rest of the time, you got to hope that they're hearing the right message. And those two guys, they might not say the same vocabulary that I use for that message, but they're telling the guys the same thing.
Donny Lind, head coach of the Mountaineers at Mount St. Mary's, with us on the college basketball preview show. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your transfer from Florida State. Anastasios. I'm just stick with that.
We call him Stas. We keep it short and sweet.
All right, we'll go with Stas. Coach, someone who I know didn't play a lot at Florida State, but again makes the jump to the MAAC. Is that someone that you could see having a little bit of a bigger role and being a bit more impactful for you this season?
Yeah, I mean, Stas is a big guard, big wing who can really, really shoot. And obviously we lost a wing who could really, really shoot in Carmelo Pacheco. And so, we knew we needed some more perimeter shooting. He's a guy that can really do that. We had to kind of go off of trust from some friends who knew his game better because he didn't play very much. But he's been really good this fall. Obviously has great size on the perimeter. And like I said, he can make shots. So he provides that deep shooting threat for us. He's a guy who I expect to be in our rotation for sure. I mean, he's got, an uncanny ability to put the ball in the basket. And when you have that, we all need that.
Donny, I know from talking to you over the summer, one of the players I came away really intrigued by was Trey DeVoe, a guy that's just kind of worked his way up and is one of those cases of maybe you shouldn't entirely just trust the raw stats over the course of a season. I know he averaged 9 a game last year at Western Illinois, but I think it was 19 points and 7 rebounds over the last 8 games or so. What kind of stands out about him? I know he's a bit of a tweener, but a guy that's figured out a way to be effective pretty much everywhere he's been.
Yeah, the thing that I love the most about Trey is he has perspective, right? The transfer portal gets maligned a lot for all the negatives that people have, but when you get to somebody and you recruit them the right way and you can get to who they are as people, there's a reason why they leave and there's a reason why they're looking for something else. And if you do it right, the people you get in your program, they value what we do really well. And Trey's one of those guys, right? Trey's got great perspective. He knows that, we're not perfect, right? No, there's no perfect school. There's no perfect place, but we have the things that he really values. And he's seen it all, right? JUCO, Division II, low major, mid major, seen a lot of different parts of college basketball. And so his perspective helps him be a great piece in our program because he can talk to guys about maybe it's not quite as bad as you think it is, right? When things aren't going their way, or coach is on you, or an assistant's trying to get you in the office to watch film. He's seen different things, and he can really play. Like you said, he had a great second half of the year at Western Illinois last year. I credit my assistants for digging through the film and digging through the stats, and not just going off of the fact that he averaged 9 a game, but that he showed some long, consistent stretches of better than that. And Trey you say, is kind of a tweener. He's willing to be a 4, and a lot of guys are afraid to be a 4 when they're 6'5", 6'6". They all want to be wings, and Trey's willing to be a 4. He's strong. He's physical. He can score around the basket against a smaller guy, and he can shoot. We didn't really, Dola would make some threes for us last year, but we didn't really have a perimeter shooter in our front court last year. Trey's a guy who will make a lot of threes for us, and so he's an inside-outside threat that should be pretty intriguing and be a pretty pivotal part of what we're doing on the offensive end.
Who else among your newcomers are you expecting to step into significant roles to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, we lost so much in the front court. We lost it all, so everybody's a newcomer. So we're going to need, Justin Amati and Luke McKeldin, those guys. Justin's transfer from Tulsa, started at JMU, the all-time field goal percentage leader in JMU basketball history. He's an undersized forward. I think we listed at 6'7". That's a little generous. He's an undersized forward, but he can play the 4 and the 5. He's physical. He's athletic. He's a guy who it really, really can score around the basket, and he's a versatile defender. He can switch ball screens. He can guard pretty much 1 through 5 with his athleticism and length. And so he's a guy who will step in and play both forward positions for us. And we're going to need, production there. And then Luke McKeldin, transferred from Santa Clara. He's originally from England, but he's a Northern Virginia guy. And so he's, coming back closer to home, and get a chance for him to play in front of, his friends and family a little bit more. Was fortunate, recruited Luke some out of high school, and, obviously went a little higher than I could get. But he came back around in the transfer portal. He's, we lose those 3 bigs, and you get sometimes caught wanting to, replace a guy verbatim for the guy that we lost. And these guys aren't the same, right? We're not going to replace JD, Dolan, and Terrell with clones of them. But these 3 guys are going to be equally as effective, I believe, and really be able to kind of hold down the front court for us. And we're going to need it with those kind of more experienced guys in the backcourt with Landis and X.
We've kind of talked about how you're recruiting a lot of guys you're maybe not familiar with in a short period of time. You got a couple guards coming in from your SoCon days that you're familiar with, Anthony Arrington from Wofford, and especially Mason So from UNC Greensboro. How much do you think they can help? What are kind of their strengths, and how do they complement who you already got?
Yeah, I expect those guys to be big pieces for us. They've pushed the level of competition every day, with X and Landis. Those 4 guards are kind of my 1s and 2s, right? They're older guys that play the point, play the combo guard spot, whatever you want to call it. We say they're playmakers, right? So they make plays for themselves and for others. And, Anthony, I knew from scouting him, I knew from watching him play at Wofford, he's a tough physical scoring guard. He knows how to put the ball in the basket. It's not always pretty. It's a little herky-jerky sometimes. His shot's a little funky, but it goes in at a high clip. He can kind of get to his spot and score from 3, from mid-range, and all the way to the basket. And so, I think he'll be able to help us, just fill some of the scoring punch that we lost. And then Mason is a point guard, more of a facilitator, but a little bit more of a threat to score than, people kind of give him credit for. He's a good shooter. He can get to his spots, but when he gets to his spots, his eyes don't just glue to the rim. He sees who's open. He kind of knows what's going on out there, and makes good plays for himself and other guys. So, there's definitely some battles going on still in practice every day, across the board for who's going to, play the majority of the minutes. And that's fun to have. I me, I love competition. I think competition's a lot of fun. I want to recruit guys that have fun competing every day. We keep track of wins and losses, and we know, the guys who win a lot generally help us late in games. If you're 50 games over 500 in practice, it's because you do winning stuff. And so, we're able to track that and kind of help make some of those decisions a little easier for me when we get to the end of the game.
The season starts November 4th at West Virginia. There's also trips to Cincinnati, Maryland, and Ohio State. And I would imagine after what you guys did at Miami last year, there's this reminder, hey, we know what to do. We can win these non-conference games at major opponents.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's always the goal, right? We're not just going there to get the paycheck, although that is a part of it. We set up those games, and we're going to go in there and show what we're made of. But there's certainly a belief. The Mount hadn't won one of those games in a long time. And so now, again, there's just a little bit more validation and belief in what we're doing and how we're doing it. And, that trickles down, obviously, from me and our staff to the players. And then when we recruit, we can talk about those things. And, all these guys want to shine on the biggest stage, right? Whether that's against a high major team, whether that's in the NCAA tournament, and so we can talk about those opportunities, and it helps us, because as much as, NIL and transfer portal go together, there's also, winning and being a part of good programs help guys develop into the pros that they want to be. And we've got to still continue to sell that, because we got to get the right guys for me, for our locker room, and for Mount St. Mary's in general, and so we did a good job, I think, of finding some guys with that chip on their shoulder, and you need that when you go into those games.
On top of that, Friday, November 7th, the first home game. First of all, it's a Friday night at Knott Arena, and that's special in and of itself. But then add in the fact that the banner will be raised that night to celebrate the MAAC championship, and also a really good Bucknell team coming in to play that game. So that should be a great chance for you to get out and see the Mountaineers. Coach Donny Lind, appreciate you taking the time. Look forward to chatting as the season goes on. Thanks so much for doing this morning.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Pat.
Donny Lind, head coach of the Mountaineers, your thumbnail on Mount St. Mary's.
Well, they've got some veteran guards, and they've got a lot of unknowns in the front court. I think that they were probably a little unheralded in some of the early Metro Atlantic projections. I think that's a team that is capable, particularly if guys like Stas and Luke McKeldin and some of those bigs can come through, of finding themselves in a pretty similar spot to where they were last year. I mean, they were the number 6 seed in that Metro Atlantic tournament before winning 3 in a row and winning that title. So I could definitely see them kind of coming in a similar spot. I mean, I think Xavier Lipscomb is poised for a really fine 6th season. I would not call it a breakout season because of how important he was to them last year. But I do think that they're probably going to be a little bit better, and I think they also benefit a little bit from it takes a little more effort to get to Mount St. Mary's than some of the other places in the Metro Atlantic, a very New York-centric league. So I think the travel probably helps a little bit there. I mean, obviously you got to pay it the other way too.
Right.
But I think also we haven't even talked about it, which is probably a good thing. Like, now they've kind of settled into the MAAC.
Mm-hmm.
The newness.
Yeah, we really thought it was going to take maybe a longer amount of time for them to be able to compete in that league.
I think that one of the interesting things the first couple of years was that they got considerably better the second half of the season. The second half of the league season. And last year, the funny thing was, they lost Terrell Art a couple times. And I remember the second time when he was lost for the season, it was late February, and the guys were like, well, we've been through this before. We'll be fine. And it's like, okay, well, that's pretty optimistic thinking. And then, of course, they go and rip off that title run. In some ways, that's what made that as impressive as anything, is they lost one of their best players like 2 weeks earlier. So I think that they're in really good hands right now. Donny Lind did a great job last season. He talked about culture right from the get-go, and I don't think you overcome that late-season injury to one of your best players without having that in place.
It is our college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens, who you follow at Discourse on Blue Sky and Twitter, that's D1S Course, is in studio with us once again. The best place to watch all of the big games, every big event, is Inside Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Great food, great drink specials, and just an awesome atmosphere. Live Casino and Hotel, Sports and Social. We continue along on the college basketball preview show, and it's always a pleasure to welcome back to the program the head coach of the Towson Tigers, He is Coach Pat Skerry. Coach, it's good to see you. Appreciate you joining us as always. Thank you for making the time for us.
Appreciate you guys having me, man. I literally just got in from a flight and hustled to the office. Always good to see a couple of guys that I like around here.
We missed having you in here to hang out with us, but we'll be over to see you for sure. You know that as the season goes on. Coach, I feel like I asked you the exact same question a year ago, but it's perhaps even more startling to me after the season they had. But what does it say about where Towson is? What does it say about these young men, Tyler Tejada, Dylan Williamson, that they're back and they're doing this again with you guys this season?
Yeah, it says a lot about the type of kids they are, their values, their families. You know, that piece has been, that means a lot to me anyhow. And then obviously we've done a lot of good things here at our institution, but it says a lot about the kids, and they're really good guys to be around on a daily basis. They're good players and they work extremely hard, but they're about the right things too.
We got to have a few conversations, and you could tell that, and it's certainly getting to know Tyler and the story of him and his little brother, who I think is the bigger star of the two of them, correct?
Yeah, we're about to take a commitment from him, I think, in the class of 2036, and we're working on some things right now.
Coach, look, unfortunately, as you know, we've had this conversation too many times over the years as well. How do you handle it when you go through it and the guys deal with the heartbreak, right? Like, what do you leave it alone? Do you tempt the rah-rah thing? Like, how do you handle it to set the tone for an off season in the following year?
Yeah, the guys put everything into it, and I'm happy that we have expectations, right? I think there's a lot of schools and universities, not only locally but nationally, would like to have the type of expectations that we have based on the resources that we're provided with, including in our league. So, our guys know what the goal is. But I told this to Patrick. He was over at practice a couple weeks ago. I mean, I'd be happy to win 3 games in March, but I don't want to win 10 games during the regular season. I don't know if that makes it a great year either. So, we've got a Super Bowl opportunity on November 3rd, and that's really all we've tried to focus on. We've got a lot of work to do to be in similar positions, Glenn, that we've been in the last couple of years, both in the regular season and come CAA tournament time. So I know why some guys are back, and we understand all that stuff, but it's about what we do on a daily basis.
That November 3rd doubleheader in Baltimore, you guys playing Loyola, obviously Maryland, Coppin State in the other game. How did that opportunity come about, and just how excited were you to be able to get that kind of a platform for your program?
Well, I have great respect for Josh and what he's going to do at Loyola. And these aren't easy games. We were beat last year by UMBC and outplayed and outcoached, and that was like the first time in 20-something games that has happened. So, but I am a big believer in playing everyone. That hasn't happened consistently. The Hall of Fame put this together. I'll be perfect. First, they talked about would we play Maryland, and we said great. And then that wasn't going to happen. And then it was Temple. We said, great. And so, like I said, we've taken an approach, especially since COVID, we'll play anybody. We'll play them anywhere. I think our non-conference schedule backs that up. And I just believe there's 2 things that I'm willing to do for that. One, when you lose 31 games your first year, your overall record's never going to be where it could have been. Okay, as you know. And then it's gotten us ready for the league, Patrick. We're 54-18 in our conference the last 4 years, and it's top 12 in the country. And a big part of that is playing good teams like Loyola on November 3rd to get you ready for your league. So that's kind of how it, kind of came together.
I imagine that scrimmaging Rutgers and especially playing an exhibition against St. John's will also get you ready. You guys won the first half at St. John's and obviously put in a pretty good defensive performance for those first 20 minutes or so. Just what were kind of your takeaways from that game, a game that St. John's ultimately won by 10, and just how much do you think that will help you out?
Yeah, I think it'll help us a lot. Both of them are, good programs and really good coaches. We're looking for a couple of balls during the St. John's game. It's still going down Utopia Parkway. We threw them so far out of bounds. So we certainly our defense is ahead of our offense right now. And, we've got to get some things cleaned up. I think anytime it was a really good crowd up at St. John's, that helped too. And we're still figuring out a lot of stuff. I wish we had, at least one more of these things. But, I guess when we get hit in the mouth, and we're going to get hit in the mouth by playing some good teams early, hopefully when it happens for real, we're not surprised when we get hit in the mouth.
He is Coach Pat Skerry, Towson basketball coach, with us here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Coach, we talked about your knowns and Tyler and Dylan, but then after that, there is a lot of turnover. There is a lot of change. Who are the group of guys that you envision maybe stepping up a little bit more this year to replace Anenda? And, again, everybody, it seems like basically everything besides those top two, there's going to be a little bit of a change.
Yeah, no, we've got, at the five, Caleb Mbea is a guy we trust on. He really was a starter last year that we brought off the bench. And he'll make a substantial leap. And we got a big 7'1" kid, Morsak, he's good. He's impressed me with his appetite to work and be coached. So we're going to be bigger there. And then we lost two good players in the portal last year, two good guards that we didn't want to lose. And I thought my staff did a great job. They were really intentional. We brought in quickly. I still remember I just touched down in San Antonio. So Thursday of Final Four that we got the kid Jack Doumbia, who's he had 18 against Rutgers and 20 against St. John's. He's a talented guard. You got to try to get him not to keep both teams in the game, but he's pretty good at keeping us in the game. And then Tyler Schmidt from Valpo can really shoot the ball, average 11 a game in the Missouri Valley. So those guys are going to play. And then we've got to get it figured out. We've got some guys back that was sitting out, and Coleman and Cole and Ryan Conway's back for us, and Abdu Sam, who played last year. And then we added some good freshmen. Nadefo, we redshirted him. We're expecting him to play. He started the other day. And Jaquan Womack's been impressive. He had 13 points up at Rutgers. So we're definitely not there, and that's going to be fluid, I think, for a while.
You mentioned a little earlier your willingness to play anybody pretty much anywhere.
It's insane this year.
But, I don't know if the feeling is necessarily mutual for a lot of good teams out there, not wanting to necessarily see you guys. Was this as tough a year scheduling-wise as you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I would love to play any Atlantic 10, ACC, or Big East team, especially if it's a drive. For anyone that's going to pound us, we've got records of all. We've called everybody, email, text. Pat O'Connell's done a great job. We had no takers, and I'm not saying we would have won those games either. We had no takers, but it takes two to go to the dance, right? Unless you're like Glenn, where you went and you stood on the wall by yourself.
Wait a second.
We didn't want to do that.
Wait a second. You've met my wife. She
you
also,
did a great job recruiting.
Yeah, she also ignored me at that time of my life.
But that's why we've we had no home games, Patrick, in might have been like early June, 0. So I give my athletic director, Steve Eigenbrod, a lot of credit. This is the first time we've ever bought any opponents to come here. And we needed home games. Now, the problem is we bought teams that have picked to win their league, which is not ideal. So, if you had a treasure chest of money Charleston and Wilmington, you could just do whatever you play 9 home games and have great records and all that stuff. But this is how we got to put it together.
you're going to Houston and Kansas this season. And I get it. Like, you've gone to Western Canada, or you've gone to lots of places. But the line between the excitement of playing that program versus maybe even, for example, like a game like Kansas, giving these kids an opportunity to play somewhere like that and maybe the result perhaps not being as imperative?
No, I mean, it's a Super Bowl. It's an opportunity. Like, it's just, so is November 3rd. I mean, in college basketball, it's just like our conference tournament, right? The best team isn't necessarily going to win. It's for 40 minutes who's going to win. If it was a series, it would be different. We're not going to go to Houston and beat them in a best-of-7 series. It's not going to happen. But, the beauty of college basketball is it's a 40-minute game, and you've got to be at your best for those 40 minutes. So what I'm, to play against a Rick Pitino team or a Kelvin Sampson team or Bill Self, I mean, those in my mind are like 3 of the top 5 coaches in the country, probably along with Danny Hurley and Tom Izzo, So you can always obviously take some stuff from there to hopefully, improve our program. But we've tried to take a lot of stuff. We've gotten some good compliments by some couple NBA guys that have been in, saying you guys are like you're like the Houston of the East, and I'm not ready to say that by any stretch, but I certainly would take that as a compliment.
You mentioned him in passing a little bit earlier, but more sec gives you guys more size, no pun intended, than you've probably had.
The pun was definitely intended. Don't let him lie like that. Don't.
More size than you've probably had, even for a team that you guys have had some big guys in the past, but just what kind of a different dimension does he provide you coming in from Fresno State?
Yeah, one, he's gotten in great shape, and he can block shots. We were looking for a shot blocking and offensive rebounding rate. And I'll be honest with you, Pat O'Connell did a great job finding him. Charleston and Wilmington went out and got 7-footers this offseason, and we felt like we might need, we were a little bit at times smaller and sometimes even gentler last year than we would like to be. But we had really good execution. This group is very competitive, but a little bit volatile. So we've got to we can't we've got to be competitive, but we still have to have a good measure of execution.
Pat, we bring up the knowns, right? We bring up Tyler and Dylan. What's even maybe still different? Are there ways where even they can be better that you've seen? Something about them, their drive, the way they prepared for this season that, it's hard in particular to imagine that with Tyler because he just does everything well. But what is maybe even different about those guys going into this season?
Listen, they've both have really worked hard this offseason. I mean, off the charts, as good as I've ever had. And they've improved their bodies. I mean, Tyler's 236 pounds, and he's moving really well. They're both much improved defensively. But even right now, I had them in on Monday morning, and we went through all their shots and some of their playmaking, and this is the standard is high for both them internally and for what we need. So there's a lot of things they've got to get better at. Now, I'm gonna play them a lot, and doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. But I think if you came to practice, you'd see I'm not coaching them any differently. When they're on the goal team and there's a couple of days if they didn't get it done, they've heard it about, you got the big name, not so much with your game, and guys are kind of the good thing I like about this group, especially with guys like Nadefo and Womack. Those two guys, like, if they ain't with the goal, they're trying to they're trying to start a riot. I mean, Nadefo and Womack, like they come after Tejada all the time, especially Nadefo. And that piece, it reminds you a little bit more, Pat, when we had like Guthrie and Damas around Benjamin, like those guys. Now you don't have to motivate Tyler, which is great, but once in a while with Jarrell, like if he lost, those guys would start chirping, and then the big fellow would really get motivated. So I'm hoping by having some depth that we can maintain chemistry and cohesion, but also be a little more forceful. We dipped a little bit defensively last year. and that wasn't good. It wasn't. And ultimately that probably cost us. We didn't have a great shooting night against Delaware, but really, if we really locked down like we normally have, it wouldn't have mattered. So this group, we can't slip. We've had two really good defensive efforts in the scrimmage and exhibition, and that has to be something that it just becomes incredibly challenging to play against us.
How much do you think that added defensive emphasis, which I know is probably not the right phrase to describe for your coaching approach, but added defensive emphasis kind of dovetail with a desire to, create a little more transition, create a few more easy baskets?
Yeah, we need to. We need to. We have to be able to attack the ball. We got to get out, strike quickly in transition. That's something we're still fighting because, every guy tells you want to run, and we've shown a lot of film this fall. Like, you guys say you want to run, I'm going to be the one that hears that we're not running. And here's the film, we ain't running. Like, you got to strike. We got to strike quickly, So it's still a learning exercise. I mean, these games happen so much earlier now. I mean, like November 3rd is the Super Bowl, and we got to play really well in order to win. But after that, like, we got to evaluate. We got to continue to get better because ultimately it is about your regular season in the conference and then in your conference tournament. This year is a little different, right? If we were fortunate enough to have this magical non-conference, then you and I might have a different conversation in conference play.
I feel like, again, we'll ask this question every year, but what you just brought up, when we say what's the difference, right? Like, how is this the year that it finally breaks through? Is the defense to you, is that the answer, that's the difference?
No, it's everything. I mean, one is staying healthy. When we won our first regular season title, Charlie Thompson gets hurt in the quarterfinals. We were the first in offense in the league, first in defense. The only other time that happened, I believe, was when Mason went to the Final Four in the history of the league, I think. So it just doesn't happen. I just want to be in that same position. Like, my first thing is like, hey, can we go 12-1, 11-2, and we've got national TV opportunities, a lot of them in the non-conference. And then we got to get in the league, right? And can we win another regular season title? And we got to do it against a couple of places. Like, my place has gotten a lot more committed, but we've got Charleston and Wilmington. You talk about this age of paying players. That's like an empty barrel. Like, these guys just picking up 9-10 new guys every year, writing out blank checks. But here we are. We're ready. We're going to be ready for them. And we have great respect for them, but we'll be ready for them. And then after that, then we better be the best team for 3-4 days. And that's March Madness. That's what you're judged on. But I have every bit of belief and faith in this group, but we've got to keep getting better. And if you don't do everything right, you're not going to be in that position. You could do everything right, and someone throws in a half-court shot on you in a conference tournament, and that's the way it goes. And like I told you initially, and you've been a great fan and supporter. The expectations of our program, internally and externally, have changed, and I'm excited about that because that means people care, and that's what they want. But I also know nationally we probably get more respect than we do, locally at times. And how could I say that? Well, look at the schedule. Nobody will play us. I mean, like, nobody will play us locally. So, people know we're going to be pretty good. But there's a lot of teams in our league, Glenn, that are going to be pretty good.
Yep. And
there's only one going. I mean, heck, there's only probably one going from the Atlantic 10, right? So it's I hope it's us. if you've got some magic that you can make sure, you think we'll
I haven't done
it.
everything in my power. I've sent my kids over there to try to help. They made the handshake line for you one night.
How about like wedding crashes where they had the eye solution in the guy's drink, you know what I mean? And then they knocked out half the lineup.
You're going to have to get Griffin on that. That's not going to be my area, but he's willing to do anything, Coach.
I'll see what I can do, Coach. I promise.
Yeah, you're going to have to get him on that one.
I like that. Right. That's, the old thing, Griffin, are you interested or are you committed? Right.
Right.
I mean, there's a difference.
It's the what was the story of like the chicken and the pig?
pig?
And
The
pig, that's right.
Yeah, right. That
That's right.
pig is committed.
That's right. That's right.
Pat, we'll be over to see you. Always appreciate taking the time. Thanks for hopping on with us this morning.
All right. Appreciate all the great things you guys do for the local basketball. Keep it up.
Thanks, Coach. Pat Skerry with us here on the college basketball preview. Your thumbnail on the Tigers.
So, Tyler Tejada and Dylan Williamson are a great place for any CAA team to start.
Yep.
It's interesting. He's talking about the national perspective versus the local perspective. And he's right. I do think Towson's probably gets more credit from a national perspective because there is a program that has a defensive identity, a program that consistently finds itself in the hunt for 20-win seasons. I think locally it's easy and understandable too to get caught up in, can you get past the semifinals of the CAA tournament? And I know we talked about this the day after last year, and I'll bring it up again. You could look at some of those previous conference tournament struggles and say, well, the other team was better, or they just had a great day, or whatever. You get the number 12 seed. You're the regular season champs. You get the 12 seed. That's already played like 3 or 4 games in this tournament, and you can't get past that. That's something that you got to answer for. And I know that some of those guys that have returned, I talked to Tyler Tejada about it. He said it took him like a week before he watched it, and he watched it, and it's hard. It's hard for those guys to process that. And so there's part of this thing is you're going to get measured on, can you win that game and can you win the game after? Because essentially that's all Towson really has left to do under Pat Skerry that they haven't done already. I mean, they had a few of those like A10 wins and whatnot floating around out there earlier in his tenure. They've had a fantastic turnaround. They've won regular season titles. If somebody had told you that Towson was going to be a team that you expected to win 20 games a season, and you said that in 2011 when Pat Skerry arrived, nobody would have taken you seriously. They had been routinely terrible for a decade plus. So, it is a program that is in far better health than it was and it could be, but there is that one thing missing, and gosh, you only get so many times where you have a returning conference player of the year. There's only 5 of them in all of Division I basketball that are back from last season. So, you have Tejada, you've got Williamson, and you've got some other really interesting pieces. I think Jack Doomby is going to be a guy that, as Pat says, if he can avoid throwing the ball into the stands. He had 7 turnovers against St. John's, but he also scored 20 points. So that's a guy that can play off of Williamson pretty well. I think, that's a team, I think out of everybody around here that all the coaches that we're talking to, that's the team that has the best chance of making the NCAA tournament.
This print issue of Press Box has a lot of college basketball content in it, including meeting players from every program around the state. A good cover story from Don Marcus about New Maryland Athletic Director Jim Smith. You can go get that today at your Baltimore area High's Dairy Store. That's the new pickup location, the new central location for the print issue of Press Box is the Baltimore area High's Dairy Stores. So go pick it up there. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. What we'll do now is we'll actually grab a break because we need to give Patrick time. He's got to run down to D.C. It's weird, but he says he can get there in 3 minutes. I don't know if I believe him.
I'll even change clothes, too.
No. Maybe I will, too. We come back in. Next up on the hot seat is Coppin State head coach Larry Stewart. Patrick is here. It's our college basketball preview show on GCR.
Game day hits different with Live Casino's Big Plays, Big Pays hot seats. Head to Sports and Social on select Sundays and Mondays in October. We'll draw 10 hot seat winners every hour. When the home team scores, we'll double the prize pool. Plus, we'll give away $50 Sports and Social gift cards with every touchdown. Watch and win at Live Casino. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Feeling sluggish, unfocused, or not like yourself? It could be low testosterone. At Game Day Men's Health, we specialize in testosterone replacement therapy to help men boost energy, improve mood, and regain confidence. Our treatments, including testosterone cypionate, are safe, natural, and tailored to fit your lifestyle with weekly injections or pellet therapy. Get started today with a free testosterone test and feel the difference. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Game Day Men's Health, where men reclaim their game.
The weather's getting cooler, so when you and your family are picking out a place to dine, be it lunch or dinner, let's make it nice and easy. Now, with 2 great locations, the Costas Inn remains your #1 destination. Whether you want to get steamed crabs and the full Costas menu out at the original location at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or sample the complete menu minus the steamed crabs at the new location above the grandstand at the Timonium Racetrack. Costas is your place to go. Check out the website CostasInn.com for a look at the menu, and if you want to plan that crab feast, call 410-477-1975. The Costas Inn.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Looking for Baltimore's premier waterfront dining experience? Head to Nick's Fish House, located in the Baltimore Peninsula. Enjoy crabs all year long, plus happy hour Monday through Thursday from 3 to 6. Planning a celebration? From rehearsal dinners to corporate crab feasts, Nick's is the spot to make it unforgettable. And the fun doesn't stop there. Live music fills the air every Thursday through Sunday. Check out the full lineup at nicksfishhouse.com. Nick's, it's where Baltimore comes to eat, drink, and play by the water.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
College basketball preview show, Glenn Clark and Patrick Stevens. And up next, he is the head coach at Coppin State. He's getting ready to open up the season at CFG Bank Arena when they take on the University of Maryland on November 3rd. He's Coach Larry Stewart, and he's back with us now here on the program. Coach, it's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Let me start right there, right? Like, what does this mean to you, to the entire program, to be involved with this event, the Hall of Fame event, to get the opportunity to kick off the season in this type of way?
Well, anytime you're invited to any type of event, it's it's a great opportunity, to number one, showcase your team and also showcase your university. And so we're just very grateful for the opportunity to be able to jumpstart the season in this Hall of Fame Classic down at the CFG Bank Arena, home right here in Baltimore City.
Coach, this team that you bring back, you guys were able to pick up a couple of wins late last season. We're going to go through some of the players, but give me a sense, because I know we always talk about how difficult this job is and how unique Coppin is, and you, of course, know it better than anybody in the world. But when things aren't going your way, like how do you keep players invigorated? How do you keep that up and keep saying, hey, we just got to put in the work to know that things are going to start to turn around?
You just have to be consistent. Look, winning is not easy. It's hard for anybody. And so you just have to continue to work on the things that you are not good at, and you just have to be honest with them, and so you just you stay with the same message, you show them film, you break things down, and you say, hey, this is why we did this is why we did that, and you just try to keep them motivated as best you can.
Larry, it's Patrick Stevens. Good to talk to you again.
Yes.
I know we talked over the summer about how you had basically tapped into a lot of connections to kind of build this roster back up this year. Just how important was it to find guys that were familiar with people you were familiar with, and those connections, and kind of knowing guys a little bit more than maybe you would have otherwise, just kind of coming in?
I mean, that helps. It helps out a lot, because like you said, I tapped into a lot of connections, guys who, I know they know the game of basketball, they know players, and so just was able to bring a group of guys in who all want to accomplish the same thing. That some of them are coming from some high major programs, and it just didn't work out. And so I was able to bring in a bunch of 14 guys who basically have a chip on their shoulder, and they're working towards one common goal.
Chatting with Larry Stewart, head coach at Coppin State, on the college basketball preview show. Coach, let's talk about a couple of those guys. One that comes back, and I know got all MEAC recognition. How important is it for you for Khalil Horton? How much of a leader has he been for this program, and how important is it for this program that maybe he takes that next step and maybe is a little bit more of an alpha this season?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. It's crucial to us winning. It's crucial to this program. He's gone into his third year, so he kind of, understands the culture. He's been on the losing side the last 2 years, and so he's really, really looking forward to, being that leader and helping these guys understand, how important it is to bring it each and every day, how important it is to really buy into the culture, and just, is looking for the opportunity to just win. He's coming off of, he got hurt, early on. So literally today is his first day back he twisted his ankle. And so he's been out for about 3 to 4 weeks. And so literally this was his first day back with a half-court contact.
Larry, I know you've got a handful of guys, as you mentioned, that have some high major experience, guys like Faber Air, Elijah Taylor, Taj Tweet as well. Tell me a bit about those guys and just what sort of impact you think they can have getting another shot here at the D1 level.
Let's just, I'll start with Elijah Taylor. He won't play this year. He will have to do a year of residency. And so, but I still felt that it was important to bring on someone like him because, again, he's coming from a high major program, and he's just been a great voice, a great leader. Even though he can't play, he can practice and do all those things. And so he's just been a tremendous help with just, again, it's the little things that win and lose you the games. And so he's just been a tremendous help. One of the little things that, gets overlooked so often is just talking. And so he's been a great communicator in practice for us and just been a great leader. Favor is coming really off of a knee injury. So he had reconstructed knee surgery last year. And so I've been kind of like limiting him, just so that we can get him his strength. He's been doing a lot more PT and treatment, practicing every other day, just on that regimen because, trying to get him to understand, we need him in November. And so, but again, he's long. He understands the game, a great communicator, and just been a great teammate so far. And then Taj, again, he coming from another guy who just has a huge chip on his shoulder. He started off at, I think West Virginia, then he went to Temple, and then last year he played at a Division two program and had a really, really good year. And so he's looking forward to this opportunity. He's just been great. He's been our most consistent guy, I would say, so far. Just brings a lot of energy, and just have to, get him to, lock in just a little bit more mentally on some things. And so just looking forward to these 3 guys just helping us try to get over that hump this year.
Larry, we always like to talk about the local kids on your roster. And I know Cameron Sparrow was a big part of what you guys did a year ago. Is he someone that you can envision maybe being even more involved and sort of growing into an even bigger role this year? And then would also love to get to know Josiah Brown out of Edmondson, who I know came in from JUCO, and what he might bring to the table for your team.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Cameron, again, he's going into his third year in the program. He understands, what we are looking for, and I'm just expecting, huge things out of him this year. He's just, he's been around all summer long, just been, trying to be a better leader, being more vocal, and just basically trying to take charge of things, when things get out of array, and so. Just looking forward to it. I mean, he has no choice. It's his third year, and so he's a pretty good, solid basketball player. He's a guy who can, do a little bit of everything out there on the court, and so just looking forward to getting started with him and get him off to a good start. Josiah Brown, he's more of I would say, I hate using the term of garbage man, but he's a guy who can, looking for him to be a good defensive guy. Can guard multiple positions, a rebounder, just that guy who can go out there and do all the little dirty things for you.
Larry, I know even going back to your playing days that Coppin had a history of basically being barnstormers, going anywhere and everywhere in non-conference play.
Yes.
And I know
Yes.
you've got a tough schedule, but you managed to make it so I think you only have to get on a plane once this
Yes.
season for that trip down to South Florida. How important for wear and tear was that, you think, on you guys to be able to frame the schedule that way?
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. The bottom line is, these guys are not built for it tough like we were. And so you have to, take all of those things into consideration. And so the things that we were able to do, this generation just would not be able to do. And so I felt it very, very important to, give them good competition, but kind of like, we looked in a 5-hour, bus radius, and I would like to take them, at least one or two places where they possibly haven't been to, and so I thought that going down to Tampa and playing in the NTE would be a great opportunity for those guys, and so but yeah, you have to be very mindful of those things now, because they're just built it just a little bit different, and so I think we have a very, very tough schedule, but a very good schedule. And so, gives us some opportunity going against a great competition and, just to see where we at.
Is that something that you noticed that was wearing on these guys as you got into conference play? That you felt like,
Well, I mean, these last 2 years, injuries played a part in it.
Sure.
We at one point, my first year, we was playing with 8 or 9 guys, and so last year ran into the same problem. One guy would go down, as soon as he come back, 2 more guys would go out, and so just felt that I had to get a little bit more depth this year, and so we have 17 people on the roster this year, and so that can play various positions, and so. Just trying to do things just a little bit different so that we can be fully prepared come November 3rd.
We remember last year you were burning sage this time, trying to get some better injury luck at that point.
That ain't changed. I just had to get a different piece of sage. That's all.
Hey, can I guess that you are not at all? I know you probably don't want to say anything nice about anything Maryland related right now because you're getting ready to play them, but your nephew, can I assume that you're not remotely surprised by the amount of success that he is having this early on in his career?
No, and I'm not. It's 2 different sports. It's the same school, but 2 different sports. So I'm happy for Maryland football team. I think that they have some great talent, some great young talent. I'm not surprised by my nephew. He's put in the work. He's dedicated to his craft. And he's on a mission to, help bring that turf program back to, to some glory days. And so not surprised at all because, it just sounded just the type of young man that he's is.
Oh, he's special. There's no doubt about it. Did you guys ever try to push him to maybe go more towards basketball? Like, was that within the family?
I think he played basketball very early on and young, but I just think that as soon as he put that helmet on for the first time, it was already determined what path he was going to go down.
Now, have you asked him about who he's going to be rooting for in the season?
Oh, he already said the Terps, so that's
yeah.
He already said the Terps, so
worth the shot for sure.
Yeah, he let that be known early.
Hey, understand that's where he is. That's the way that it
Yes.
works. Of course, those that don't know, we're talking about Sidney Stewart, who it feels like has had a sack in every game he's played so far. He is the real deal. Coppin State, again, opens things up in Baltimore. Great opportunity for you. It's not just, obviously, Coppin State, Maryland. We're talking all morning. It's a great night for local basketball fans to come out and celebrate the start of the season with a tremendous doubleheader on November the 3rd. They won't be home for a little while, not until November 18th against Central Penn, your first chance to see them at the C-Spec. Coach, always appreciate you taking the time for us. Look forward to checking in with you during the course of the season. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on. You have a great day.
That is Larry Stewart, head coach at Coppin State, and I cannot believe, I know that we were working to put in those trains, those sonic trains, but I can't believe you got all the way, and we got all the way back here this quickly. That's amazing. You all right?
Yeah. Flew in from Washington, and man, are my arms tired.
Quick thumbnail on Coppin.
The good thing for Coppin is they've got 2 starters back, which is more than anybody other than South Carolina State and the MEAC can say. Cameron Sparrow and Callie Horton are 2 guys out of 5 in the entire league that averaged 20-plus minutes last year that are back. So it's a situation where there is some experience, where there is a little continuity, and as we talked about, there is some high major influence here as well this season. But it's also a tough job, and I think the fact that you only have so much continuity and you have like 14 new players is going to make this a tough slog. I think if Coppin can take another step forward, maybe get itself into the middle of the MEAC pack, I think that's going to qualify as a good season for them this year.
Let's continue along here on our college basketball preview show. Next up on the hot seat, he is the head coach of the UMBC Retrievers. He's Coach Jim Ferry, and he's back with us now on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Everything is well, and it's great to see you, Coach.
You too.
I know that last year we had talked about like maybe that was the team that could be breakthrough, and I know it didn't go the way that you wanted it to. Defense, rebounding, what did you do both roster-wise and working with this group in order to be able to fix some of those issues going into this season?
Yeah, I mean, it was the rebounding more than it was the defense, believe it or not. We got the first chance stops, the first shot misses to get teams to miss. It was just we couldn't rebound the ball last year, defensively, offensively, and it really played out. We were one of the most efficient offensive teams in the country. I think we were 32nd in the country in offensive efficiency, average over 80 a game, and we lost a lot of close games because we just couldn't rebound the basketball. So, in this new era of college sports and recruiting, we focused on it, man. We are significantly bigger, we're significantly longer, significantly more athletic, and I think it's something that was a weakness that's going to turn into a strength of ours this year.
When you have a situation like that where you have certain things that you're obviously really good at, KenPom had you 11th in three-point percentage, 28th in effective field goal percentage. How much are you hoping that because you've got so many new pieces that a lot of that stuff is system-based, or is it you feel like because you have a few pieces back and the way that you kind of do things holds up, that you can just kind of spend a little more time on the rebounding piece of it and figure that you can add as opposed to sort of bank on something being a definite thing type of thing.
Yeah, well, Patrick, you followed me for a while. My teams. My teams are always pretty good offensively, right? So you can say system, you can say type of kids we recruit, but what people don't realize is every day we spend 75% of practice on defense. Every day, and this has been my whole career, yet we've always had really good offensive teams. I do think what you said is accurate. There's going to be a little bit of both. Like we're playing good offense right now too. It is a little bit different. We're not as 3-point heavy as maybe we've been. We've had to play 3 small guards over the past 2 years. Where this year we don't have that. We have bigger size, length. We're going to get to the foul line more, and now the rebounding has been. Since the summer, these guys have walked in the gym and we've, just been getting after it. I want to say in our scrimmage the other day in the first half, we held the opposing team to 11% of their misses back. and they only shot 30% from the field. So a lot of misses, and that's what we're working on every day. Now listen, we're gonna have a huge. I can't wait for Monday night, just for that. Like, we're gonna go into Maryland, play those guys. Buzz's teams are always big and physical and aggressive on the offensive glass. So I can't wait to put our guys to that challenge, because I think we'll grow a lot from that Monday night. But it's something that we're absolutely working on. Being in the league now for 4 years, first 2 years we were very good. Finished in second, got to the championship game. Missed the NCAA tournament by 1 game. Next year, same thing, 18 wins, and then the transfer portal, NIL, all that stuff jumps in, and the last 2 years haven't been where we want it to be. But I think we have a shot this year to get right back in the mix in this conference, because I think we did a really good job recruiting, bringing in 10 new guys.
I'm sure a big plus as well, Josh O'Donoghue being able to get that waiver, being able to keep him for another year. Just how kind of touch and go was that, and just how much of a difference does he make in terms of just kind of solidifying, given all the other new pieces that you have to fill in?
Yeah, we're so excited about being able to get Josh back, and it was touch and go, man. We didn't find out until the first, second week in August, man. It was crazy that it took that long. But Josh, an all-league player, just a great leader. You've been around, just a wonderful human being, and to have him back, and Ace Valentine too. Ace, bringing Ace back again for this is his 3rd year. Now he's been recovering from an injury, so he just started practicing this week. But having those 2 guys back as experienced leaders, Josh is one of the best leaders I've ever been around. And the way he plays, his motor, his aggressiveness, it's just been awesome. And I think everybody's been feeding off that. And to be quite honest, man, we got a bunch of guys in here. We haven't had a bad day. Not many coaches can say that, especially having all these new guys. But man, we play hard, we play physical, we're aggressive. Offensively, maybe we're a little bit behind where we normally will be, but we'll be all right. But I really like this group. I really like the pieces that we have, and we have significantly more depth than we've had over the past 2 years.
Yes, UMBC coach Jim Ferry is with us on our college basketball preview show. Coach, I want to get to some of those new pieces, but just staying on Josh and Ace, it's good to just have starters back, guys that know the system, know the program. That feels like a luxury anymore within this sport. But how much better, like the way that you've seen these guys rise from year to year, how much even better do you believe those 2 can be this season?
Yeah, significant. Josh was his first year with us last year. Obviously graduated from Columbia, and the reason he chose us was to hopefully blossom his game and improve his game and expand his game. And he did that in 1 season with us. Now he's got 2 with us. And I think you're going to see his perimeter skills are significantly better, yet he hasn't lost his edge down low, his athleticism to rebound, to finish, to run. He's really defending at a high level right now. I think you'll see a little bit of a different player in Josh. Ace was more, and I can say this because he and I have discussed it. Ace didn't have a very good end of the season last year for himself, for his expectations, for our expectations. So, I give that man a ton of credit, because most kids in that situation would have packed up and said, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? Blame somebody else, do this, whatever, jumped in a transfer portal, whatever. And Ace was like, no, man, I get it. And I challenged Ace at the end of the year. This is he needed to improve on certain things. And like a true man that he is, and figured it would be from the family he comes from, was like, I ain't going anywhere. I want to get better. And he's done that. Now, he had a little surgery in August, and he's just kind of getting back now. So I think, as we move ahead over the next couple of weeks, more so into probably late November, December, I think we're going to see the improvement in Ace. But having those guys back, we're really fortunate, and I think it's going to give us a chance to really compete in this league.
Among some of the newcomers, it kind of stands out. You picked up a couple guys from Old Dominion, Devin Caesar, a veteran guard, and also Caden Diggs. Just how much of an impact do you see both of those guys having? In particular, a guy like Caesar, who averaged better than 11 a game last year in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I mean, Dev's still recovering from the injury. He only played about 12 games last year, so he's still recovering from that injury. But we recruited Devin out of high school. He's a talented, explosive athlete, scorer mentality. I think he's trying to come back from that injury and then fit into the way we're playing right now. But if he can get himself healthy, and get his explosiveness back and his aggressiveness back. I think he's someone that can obviously help us, especially on the offensive end. Caden Diggs has been fantastic. He's big 6'8" wing, which we normally haven't had, right? We've always played 3 guards, so his versatility, his ability to defend, rebound, both defensively and offensively. He's a tough matchup to guard with his size and length. So we're excited about both those guys. I thought that was two good guys. Obviously, we consider those guys local guys. Keep those guys back here, get them back home.
You've also picked up some D2 guys in the past, but it seemed like that was a real priority in terms of filling out things this year, is targeting really good D2 players. What's kind of the philosophy behind that? Because, I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say that there's really, a lot of those guards at the D2 level are perfectly capable of stepping in and playing mid-major basketball at the D1 level.
Yeah, especially the older ones, right? So, listen, man, I played Division II. I coached in Division II for about 10 years. I was a head coach at Adelphi. We had great teams. We were number 1 in the country, number 4 in the country. Those guys that I coached there were really good. They could all play. So I kind of know the league. I know the level. I know what translates from Division II to this level. But I think the most important part was getting the right kids from the right programs. Paul Green was a big-time rebounder, big-time scorer at University of Southern New Hampshire, where he played for my former assistant in a league that I coached in. Jalakai King is just, you guys will really like him, just an explosive, quick guard that you can tell has played a lot of basketball. Played for one of my good friends at the University of New Haven in that same league. So I know the league. We got Jose from Palm Beach Atlantic, another really good Division II league, which my son played in Division. So it wasn't just like, throwing darts at a wall and seeing where it would stick with these guys. I kind of know the leagues and know the situations, and we've had success with it. I mean, if you look in my second year here, we had Colton Lawrence, who came from Bentley, where I coached. He was our leading scorer, and he was an only player, right? You look across the country at some of the programs that had great success over the past couple of years. There've been a lot of Division II players, and I think those guys come in hungry. They look at the opportunity to be Division I players, and to be quite honest, us having the ability to give these guys cost of attendance, and some Alston stuff, that's how we're able to kind of compete where we don't have, some of the higher spendings that a lot of people are throwing around money at kids. So to be able to get those Division II guys, I think was a smart move on our part.
Obviously, the rebounding part stands out. But, Coach, what else do you need from this group in order to be able to take that jump back towards the top of the America East?
Just to really be a cohesive group, the commitment to continue to stick together. You got 10 new guys. A lot of people are dealing with that. I think the people that can get everybody to stay committed to the team in this new era of college basketball, like everybody in our league, right, besides Vermont, has brought in almost a whole new team. So that's why we're always going with the people first. I think we really brought in some great kids, great people, committed. They're a really connected group. I think if we can continue to stay connected, and also understanding that we all need to have a little bit of patience, starting with me, right? When we have all these new guys, we have to focus on the big picture, just getting better every day. Because I think by the time league plays, we're going to be a significantly different team than what you're going to see certainly Monday night. But I usually don't say this. I'm a conservative guy, right? I actually think we have a chance to be pretty good. I think we're going to be able to compete in this league with everybody.
You bring up Monday night a couple of times here, the exhibition game down at Maryland. I know you've played down there quite a bit. What kind of led to this particular opportunity? Had it been something that had you been looking for a regular season game and it shifts into an exhibition, or is it an exhibition opportunity straight from the jump?
Yeah, a little bit of both, right? When Kevin was there, Kevin and I would play every year. I like playing as many local teams as we can. I'm still a component of we should be playing a game. I know there's going to be 2 games downtown. Why don't we make 3 games? Why don't we make 4 games? Have us all play down there. So I was a little disappointed about that this year. But originally, Kevin and I had agreed to play a regular game down there. And then when Buzz came in and his staff, obviously turning over a lot of different things and ideas and stuff. So they decided not to play the game, but then they actually reached out and said, hey, would we be interested in playing an exhibition game? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think it's going to be, I think it'll be good for both teams. I think it'll be great for our guys, obviously, to get in that environment and play a really talented, physical Big Ten team right out of the gate to see where we're at. So, you know, we all have relationships and we're all trying to help each other out. Like, you know, Pat Skerry and I have close friends for years. We wanted to continue to, you know, they beat us one year, we beat them last year. We just couldn't get a date this year, right? So we're all trying to play, and hopefully we can step up and everybody play each other locally. I did that when I was at LIU Brooklyn, just try to play everybody locally. I even did it at Duquesne. I played Pitt every year. So I'm a big guy for that, and hopefully we could all come together in this area and let's get it all played downtown one night or something. Let's get it going.
Here, here. Something we talked about a lot over the years. Would love to see that happen. First time they'll be playing at home is the following Tuesday against Penn State York over at Chesapeake Employers Insurance Arena, the Peak, and lots of opportunities to check out the Retrievers in non-conference play. Coach Jim Ferry, looking forward to seeing throughout the season. Thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Always appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
Jim Ferry,
Right.
head coach
See you
at
soon.
UMBC. Your thumbnail on the Retrievers.
Well, Jim Ferry's pretty bullish on that.
He is.
You know, and you know, we talked about Adonwo and Ace Valentine as two really good places to start. And so, you know, I think it's really not a secret. Can they rebound? Like, if they can rebound, they can probably move up a bit because they're probably going to be able to score a fair bit somehow or another. So, if they can't rebound, they're probably going to be floating around as one of those teams that's one of the last couple, you know, that's right on the cut line, you know, to be even making the America East tournament. I think they were the 6th seed last year. I think they were. I might be off on that by a line one way or the other. But I think they can be solid, and I am intrigued based on that D2 influx. You know, the difference between D2 guards and like the bottom half of Division I guards, not very big.
Sure.
Okay? The D2 bigs, like, they're just not as big. Like, they're skilled, but they're not – the best ones are skilled. They're just not as big.
And they
But
may be 6'6".
6'6", 6'7", those kinds of guys. But the guards, I mean, after 3 years of development, some of those guys that were at the D1 level aren't as good as people thought they were going to be, and some of those guys at the D2 level turned out to be overlooked. So – I think that I think that they could be an intriguing team. I don't know if I'm gonna sit here and say, oh well, they're gonna beat Vermont or something like that. Like I mean, but you know, they've actually, you know, over Jim's time there, that they've had some good moments against some of the better teams in the conference. And you know, last year's champion Bryant, the coach, left. Phil Martelli Jr. left for VCU. So you know, an opening there a little bit. I still expect Vermont to be pretty good. I mean, that's one of the safest things you can possibly say. I did want to point out one of the more interesting local games that we'll have this year, and it's not necessarily just because of UMBC. They host Army on December 12th, which is the night before the Army-Navy football game.
In Baltimore.
And so Army as a program has made it a point to try to play a game the night before wherever they're at. I think they were at Harvard a couple years ago.
Fans with them.
Exactly. And so, you know, they played at GW last year when it was in D.C. So I think that's kind of a neat opportunity, December 12th, Army at UMBC.
So we got to get out there to try to overpower those.
Griffin's going to be working for every school. This is you've got a responsibility for every program so far in order to help them out. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's a great point. Certainly it makes all the sense in the world for Army to be doing that and to try to make a weekend out of it and give fans more of an event. So it makes all the sense. Patrick Stevens is in studio with us. It is our annual college basketball preview show. Kevin Broadus from Morgan State is going to join us in just a minute. I guess before we do that, because Jim Ferry was just talking about playing that exhibition at Maryland, we will be talking plenty of Maryland this season, but when the season gets underway, what are you most interested in seeing from them?
Well, just kind of how they handle what looks like it's going to be a rigorous schedule. You get Georgetown, the second game of the season. You get Marquette the next weekend. You have the 3 games in Vegas. They'll play Gonzaga and UNLV and somebody else. And then they play Virginia right before Christmas. And so, of course, right earlier in the month, they've got 2 Big Ten games. They go to Iowa and they play Michigan at home. So, I think just seeing how a completely new team.
Yep.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have any sense of how all that stuff is going to fit together and who fills what role, but how that group is able to handle what is a very daunting early schedule is what stands out there.
Let's continue here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Next up on the hot seat, he is the head coach at Morgan State. It is good to have Kevin Broadus back with us. Kevin, it is Glenn and Patrick. It's always good to chat with you. Thanks for joining us once again here on the College Basketball Preview Show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Coach, something that Patrick was talking about earlier on in the show. You guys have been right in the middle of the MEAC the last few years, right? And we have seen high moments. We have seen really good wins. Right now, what to you broadly do you feel like is the difference between being competitive and being ready to break through and have that big season to put yourself in position to try to win the league?
First and foremost, you got to have kids to buy in, and then you got to. And one thing you can't control is injuries. And right now we pretty healthy for the most part. Guys playing together. They bought in, and these guys are working very, very hard. And we've had one close scrimmage we fared really well in, but they're scrimmages. They don't count. Now it's getting ready to get real in about a week and a half. And, I think, for us, it's just attention to detail right now. And the guys they're buying in. So I think with this group, I think if we can keep doing what we're doing, we'll get over the wall and have a successful season. Like you said, we're right there in the MEAC and in the thick of things, in the middle of the pack, but we're trying to get to the top. And it's not easy getting to the top. Everyone wants to get to the top. Mike Tyson used to say everyone has a plan until they get hit. So, we've gotten hit once so far this season. Now we're going to, amp it up, play another scrimmage soon. And then hopefully when we go down to the hilltop, we got something for them. We're going not just to be competitive and play a game. We're going to try to, compete and do things the right way, and hopefully we have some success.
Kevin, you mentioned that opener against Georgetown on November 3rd, next Monday, or a week from Monday. How meaningful is that opportunity for you to be able to – you've obviously spent a lot of time with that program. Just how special is that chance for you to get to go play Georgetown with your team?
It's like going back home, it's a special occasion. But like I always tell our guys, that game is not going to make or break our season. It's one game. It's the first game. It's just going to help us tell where we are. You want to play with the big dogs. You want to fare well against them, some of these kids was at that level. They want to go back and show they can compete at that level. And we want to show that, we can compete at that level. And it's going to be a tough test because they played a really good GW team in an exhibition and beat them at GW. They're really well coached. They're a good ball club. And, that's not to say that we can't compete with them, because I think we can. If we execute, play hard, play smart, and play together, we got a chance. I'm not going to say we're going to beat them, but we got a chance,
When you look at what you got back, Rob Lawson is a guy that stands out as one of the more veteran guys in the MEAC, one of the more established guys in the MEAC. Just what do you think he's going to be able to do, maybe with a little more on his plate this season after some of your graduation losses?
Leadership. He knows the road that we're going down, who we're playing, how we're going to play him. He knows all the calls, and he knows the regime, what we're planning to do. He helps these guys every day and, getting them ready when we get in the gym. We got a lot of new faces like most people, but these guys, they don't know from one drill to the next drill, the pace and, what we expect. And Rob knows all that. And he does have that leadership, capability of getting these guys in the right place in the right time. So it's a welcome having him back and having some of these other guys back to lead these new guys to new heights.
Kevin Broadus, Morgan State head coach, with us on our college basketball preview. Coach, Patrick brings up everything you lost, but he and I were over there for senior night last year. That was a very emotional night with Cam and Will Thomas. Rob's a big part of it, right? But who else? Not just the leadership, but again, just scoring points and sort of being the alphas. Who's ready to make that jump for you this year?
The guys that I really so far has really taken a leap and have led us in the right direction is Elijah Davis. Played at a couple Division I's. He played at Bowie State last year, but he has been unbelievable. I mean, he is a point guard deluxe. He's an elite point guard, elite lead guard, and I think he gets us into the stuff and get us the guys who can score. He gets them going. And I just think right now with him and bringing in a guy, Alfred Worrell, who can really, really score from Southern Miss, helps us with our scoring. I mean, we haven't had problems in scoring in the last few years. I mean, we led the league in scoring. You know, we was top 5 in the nation, top 5% in scoring in the nation. But Alfred is a big-time scorer, and we have a kid, Walter Peggs, who can really, really score the basketball. I mean, dynamite score. So I think we have the scoring part figured out. We just got to get our defensive, principles and how we're going to play different schemes together. And I think these guys are buying in and doing the things that we need to do to be successful.
In the front court, I know Dallas James is a guy that has some MEAC experience, big guy, good lineage. I think that's somebody you were pretty excited about getting when we talked over the summer. Just how much do you see him being able to influence the course of things for you guys this year?
Dallas is doing very well. Hard worker. He is the anchor of a defense. I mean, he blocks shots, he rebounds. He's unselfish. We love what he brings to the table. We bring back Christian Oliver, the big kid we had 2 years ago who sat out last year, who's healthy now and doing really well. Marlon Harris has really stepped up this year so far. He is playing very, very well. So we have size. Size is not the issue. It's just, it's going to be by committee. Then you have Matar, who's taking the next level from a freshman to a sophomore. But I like our size. And Dallas has been right surprise for us so far.
Do you? This is a more of a philosophical question, Coach, because when you lose as much as you did at the top, right? Is it, hey, I want everybody to compete. I want everybody to go into a year believing they can be the alpha on this team, that role is there, or do you need to identify and say, hey, we need it. We need you to be this guy for this team?
Well, sometimes subtraction is best. Sometimes you need to move on. Like, I think with the group we had, we got the most out of what we could get out of them.
Okay.
Now we have new blood. Guys are hungry to show that they are alphas. And sometimes you got to slow them down and say, hey, this is how we do things. But I love the competition, how they're competing every day and trying to impress, but doing things in the confines of what we're trying to do. I mean, we've had some really, really good practices, spirited practices, tough, hard-nosed practices. I mean, these guys, all from 1 to 15 are really, really putting the effort out. And I can't say we had that all the time last year. We knew Will was going to score. We knew Cam House was going to score. Then after that, it was a crapshoot. These guys, we know we're going to defend better. I know that. This group is going to defend better. So I think that makes us a better ball club.
You mentioned over the summer that Trent Edwards was having a really good offseason. How has he kind of progressed as he heads into his junior year, and do you see a breakout possibility there for him?
Trent is one of these guys that he's a system player for us. He will be a lot better. He's going to play a lot more. When people look at breakout as, is he going to score more? Probably not. But I tell you what, he's more of a force on the defensive end. Trent is taking in the role of, I'm going to stop my man. I'm going to stop the best guy on the other team. I'm going to defend. I'm going to rebound, stuff like that. See, and this is the thing that with this team, we have roles and guys are buying into their roles. Everyone is not going to score, but everyone's going to defend on this team. That was the difference last year. We had guys who was going to score, but they was handicapped defensively, if you understand what I'm saying. And I think this team here is more of a, okay, we're going to stop you. We're going to defend you. We're going to do all the things we need to do to win. And that's the main thing. I think we had guys, okay, I'm in my senior year. I'm just trying to get to the next level. These guys here, whatever year they're in, you would never know, but they're trying to please and satisfy and win. That's what their biggest thing, win.
Does it feel like the group is more malleable for you then?
Remains to be seen, but
okay.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse yet, but what I will say is right now, we're a better team than we were last year, if that makes any sense. I think everyone thinks they're really good. I'm not saying we're really good. I think we have a better concept and a better idea of what we're trying to do this year. We have a lot of togetherness, and guys they're working way harder than they worked last year.
It almost sounds like they're, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it almost sounds like you're not having to spend as much time steering guys into doing what you want them to do as opposed
Absolutely. You can put those words in. I'm not coaching effort, and I'm not coaching, personalities. I'm coaching basketball right now. I'm coaching guys that, want to get better, want to do better, want to please, and want to win. And that's a world of a difference. I heard the other day Kelvin Sampson say, when I have to coach, effort and personalities, it takes away from, your chances of winning and losing. But when I'm just coaching basketball, it's a different thing. And I think that's, I listened to it, I said, wow, I thought it was just us. But, that's a guy who's won 30 games a year for the last 6 years saying that. So I respect that.
That sounds like it's a little, it's not just a little bit, a lot of weight off your shoulders.
A whole lot. And I got leaders now. Like, I got leaders like Rob has been here 4 years, Trent's 3 years. Elijah has been in a system that's similar to ours when he came from Bowie. I coached with Coach Brooks. So he knows, what to expect and what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to accomplish with these guys. So we have leaders, and Walter Peggs is a leader. I mean, forget he can score, but he's a leader. He is an old soul that leads these guys into lead them the right way, And I see our guys more so this year together a lot. So it's a good thing to watch.
Coach, you mentioned those guys that have been around for a little while. As Patrick told me earlier in the show, that's not common really anywhere in college basketball, but particularly in the MEAC. What has it meant to you to have those types of kids that have wanted to stick around and be a part of what you've been doing for the last few years?
It means a lot. You have some kids, when they came here, their parents said, well, this is what we want out of our kid. This is what we want him to do. And it was vice versa. I said, this is what we need him to do and we want him to do. And it was a common, togetherness. And the guys that stayed, they wanted the same things that we wanted. And some of the guys that left, not to say all of them left, they left for some of them left for bigger pastures. I get that. And I'm not, Daniel Akatobi went to UT San Antonio, and I get why he went. I mean, financially, it made all the sense in the world. And we're happy for these guys that left and got financially compensated. That's today's college basketball. But the ones who stayed, they had a vision. I want to get a degree. And we had 8 guys last year to get a degree from Morgan State. But these guys wanted to get a degree, and they got aspirations of winning the MEAC championship. So we're happy. We're happy that they stayed, and, we're building off of that. Rob, Trent, Christian Oliver, Matar Wade, Jaden Saka. We had a bunch of guys that stayed, so we're happy with that. The growth.
As Patrick mentioned, the season gets underway November 3rd at Georgetown, and then the first chance to see the Bears at home will be Thursday the 6th against Central Penn, with a great local matchup against UMBC on November 11th. An awesome opportunity for you to get out and check out a local rivalry game at Hill Fieldhouse. Coach, always appreciate taking the time for us. Looking forward to seeing you out there this season. Best of luck, and we'll be talking to you real soon, all right?
Thank you for having me, man. Good luck with you guys in the season. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Coach Kevin Broadus at Morgan State. Patrick, your thumbnail on the Bears.
Well, when I talked to Kevin, I think it was in July at one point, I definitely got the sense that he liked the group a little bit more. I think this morning we got a sense that he really likes this group a lot more. And so the question becomes, how much of that is because this group is great to deal with, and how much of it was that going through last year and maybe the year before was a bit of a struggle. At the very least, if you don't feel like you're fighting your team, you're probably going to feel like you have a better shot. And so he also pointed out what we all know, which is the first 2 months of the season, indirectly anyway, the first 2 months of the season is simply you're getting yourself ready. Your first game, your first 2 games, whatever, it isn't going to impact the course of how successful you're going to be, because what you're really looking at is those 14 games in January and February, March, plus the conference tournament. So I think, as we've talked about a couple times, there's no doubt that Morgan State will probably be able to at least bank on finishing somewhere in the middle of the pack, because that's what they've done so consistently here. Can they take the next step? Can they, as he put it, get over the wall? Rob Lawson's going to have a big say in that. He mentioned the D2 transfers. Walter Peggs is a guy who averaged 26 points a game at Spring Hill College, which is not, that's hard to do at any level. So you certainly have to respect that. And then you look at a guy, I'm just trying to remember the name off the top of my head, Elijah Davis.
Right.
The kid from Bowie
He's
State.
very high on him.
And he's a guy that has some D1 experience too. So, I know when Kevin and I talked over the summer, he was like, this guy might be one of the best point guards. This might be the best point guard that we've had since I got here. So I'm curious to see how they look in that opener against Georgetown and against UMBC. I mean, that UMBC game could very easily be that has the feel of like an 85-83 type of game, doesn't it?
Does. Could be a fun night to get over to Hill Fieldhouse. All right, let's do this. We'll grab one more break, and then we got one more head coach to go this morning, and it's the only new head coach on the local front. First-year Navy head coach, certainly someone who's very familiar with the Naval Academy. He's been there for over a decade. But Jon Perry, the new head coach of the Midshipmen, will join us next. Patrick is here. It is our college basketball preview show on GCR.
The weather's getting cooler, so when you and your family are picking out a place to dine, be it lunch or dinner, let's make it nice and easy. Now, with 2 great locations, the Costas Inn remains your #1 destination. Whether you want to get steamed crabs and the full Costas menu out at the original location at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or sample the complete menu minus the steamed crabs at the new location above the grandstand at the Timonium Racetrack, Costas is your place to go. Check out the website, CostasInn.com, for a look at the menu, and if you want to plan that crab feast, call 410-477-1975. The Costas Inn.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Don Marcus profiles new Maryland Athletic Director Jim Smith, breaking down the challenge he faces in his new role and the unique background he brings to the job. Also inside, Brandon Schwartzberg takes an in-depth look at Orioles outfielder Dylan Beavers. And we meet college basketball players from all the programs around the state before the season gets underway. Press Box is available for free at over 250 locations throughout the region. And starting this month, you can find us at Baltimore area High's Dairy Store locations. Plus, you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Game day hits different with Live Casino's Big Plays, Big Pays hot seats. Head to Sports and Social on select Sundays and Mondays in October. We'll draw 10 hot seat winners every hour. When the home team scores, we'll double the prize pool. Plus, we'll give away $50 Sports and Social gift cards with every touchdown. Watch and win at Live Casino. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Feeling sluggish, unfocused, or not like yourself? It could be low testosterone. At Game Day Men's Health, we specialize in testosterone replacement therapy to help men boost energy, improve mood, and regain confidence. Our treatments, including testosterone cypionate, are safe, natural, and tailored to fit your lifestyle with weekly injections or pellet therapy. Get started today with a free testosterone test and feel the difference. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Game Day Men's Health, where men reclaim their game.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here as we are continuing along on our college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens in studio with us. And the World Series gets underway tomorrow night. Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, and Luke Jackson will continue to bring you their Monday shows this coming Monday, and they'll do one to wrap things up the following Monday. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. It's all brought to you by the Costas Inn. And the all-new Costas Inn, now open in Timonium at the fairgrounds. Patrick, one broad topic. We've heard, again, some push. Of course, I can't believe that Congress didn't save college athletics. They're doing such a good job at so many things. It's so objectively hilarious to me whenever they're like, well, hopefully Congress will do something. Sure. We've heard a little bit of push again from coaches hoping that maybe we could go back to one-time transfer and then second-time transfer, you have to sit out. I would assume that we know enough to know, like...
The genie is out of the bottle.
Correct.
Man, unfortunately. I mean, I suspect, and I was thinking about this yesterday, if you could do like there's reasons why a coach wouldn't want to answer this question, but if you had the choice as a coach, where everybody talks about NIL portal, and what they really mean is pay for play and unrestricted free agency.
Correct.
Okay, I bet a strong bulk of college basketball coaches, if given the choice between undoing one of the two, would absolutely figure out a way to get rid of unrestricted free agency. Because the money stuff is the money stuff, and yes, it creates all sorts of headaches, but whatever.
You can choose how you spend your money.
You can choose how you spend your money. The unrestricted free agency where you don't know. Now, some coaches know who's not going to be around, or some of the guys that aren't going to be around by January or February. Sometimes even sooner than that. But the idea of having to go and rebuild a roster like that in 6 to 8 weeks in the spring, I mean, it realistically has made that, that's not supposed to be the toughest time of the year. Like when you kind of look at what a college basketball coaching cycle for a year is, and listen, some of these guys are, the salaries and whatnot, you're getting paid to deal with that. At a lower level, you're not getting paid that much to have to put together a roster like that. So, I know we've talked about this before, but I think really one of the keys for the sport is if you don't have continuity and you're not going to be chasing a national championship, how good is it for you to have for your fans in terms of having like engagement and whatnot and having a bond between your fans and your program if your roster turns over every year? If you were Duke or Kentucky 10 years ago and you're doing that, well, you're doing it in service of trying to win a national title. If you are UMBC, well, you're probably not going to win a national title. I mean, winning one game is cause for celebration and hanging a banner.
100%.
So...
to your point, it makes it very difficult and when we do this show every year, we're literally, hey, here are the players that are on these teams. It's very difficult for anyone to say, hey, here's the guy that I've gotten to know, that I want to come out and watch, that I want to tune in for, any of those things. So that part, I know exactly what you're talking about. One more coach to go this morning here on the College Basketball Preview Show, and it is the only new coach of everyone we're speaking with. He is the first-year head coach at the Naval Academy. He is Jon Perry, and he is with us this morning. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Great to see you both. Patrick, good to see you. Glenn, thanks so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Saving the best for last, right, guys?
There we go. Coach, I want to get back to it because I do think, obviously, you guys have a chance very much to be the best in the Patriot League this year. But I wonder for you, from when we talked in the spring and you getting the job, you've been there for so long. Is there anything that maybe has even surprised you as someone who's been there, who's been alongside Ed, who's seen everything that he's done? Is there anything that you said, I still didn't know this about being the head coach at Navy?
It's a great question, and think about it a lot. The biggest thing is just the amount of decisions that fall on me every day for our program, right? Ultimately, I'm trying to serve the staff and serve a roster full of wonderful young guys, and then serve the Naval Academy. And you think you got your day planned, and there's 50 things a day that come up that you need to make a decision on that you just haven't planned for. And so you just got to take them one thing at a time. And sometimes you're able to make a quick decision on certain things, but other things, take a little bit longer. And that's one of the great lessons I learned from Coach DeChellis, of just that ability to discern a little bit. And something he always told me was never make an important decision after 4 o'clock. Sleep on it.
We talked a lot this morning with other coaches about turnover and not having a lot of guys back, and then you've got a situation where you got 5 starters back, including a preseason player of the year in Austin Bonini in the Patriot League. Just how that doesn't guarantee anything, but how reassuring is it to know that you've worked with all of these guys, that you're going to be counting on a lot this season?
Yeah, the consistency's there. The continuity is coming back. Our summer is a little bit different than everybody else's, but I think it's great because we do 3.5 weeks of ball and summer school where most people are doing 8 weeks. So, I think there's life in the balance. They've got to be young guys. And so we're still trying to work on that continuity piece. We've still got a long way to go, but it's great having, a starting rotation coming back and a really, really strong senior class.
I feel like, Patrick brings up Austin, and how do you explain what that young man has meant to this program, and what does he mean as a leader to your group?
He has unbelievable mental toughness and resiliency. He's first in the gym, he's last to leave, and I think you want that in a point guard. You also want a guy that can take command of the game at times, and he is that. And you also want a guy that really wants to serve his teammates, and he does that in a lot of different ways. But he sets the example on how hard we want to play and how hard we want to work. And so, we're very appreciative of that. Everything he's gotten in life, that young guy's earned.
This is such a new era thing for college basketball. Can you shed any light to us about what that's like when someone says, hey, I don't know, I want to dip my toe into the water and see what might be out there, and how you handle it, and how there's no hurt feelings in a situation like that?
Yeah, obviously I know Austin very well and his family very well from, starting to recruit the guy here at Navy. And ultimately, I just want what is best for him. And I think as you get to know these young guys, then you can help them with their basketball game and their futures. But if you don't get to know them as people and you don't really understand their goals and aspirations, it's hard to help them with that basketball decision. And, he's a guy that wanted to test the waters, and I think he's got a strong faith, and he's got a wonderful family, and he listens to the right people. He's got a board of directors that has been strong in his life, and he used all of his resources, and we just tried to be here for him, and I tried to ask questions and stay curious through the process, and ultimately let him figure it out on his own, because that's what has to happen.
When you look at Donovan Draper, a guy that didn't even play basketball his first year at the academy, comes over, rebounds like a Tasmanian devil kind of there. There's the last 2 years. What's the next step for him, and just how important is he going to be to get where you want to get to this season?
Draper's next step is really becoming an offensive threat for us. A guy that can get double digits for us, not just offensive rebounding, right, but figuring out ways to get to the free throw line and be a consistent night in, night out scorer for us. And if he can do that, our team will make great strides. His focus has leveled up His preparation and understanding how to prepare for games and different opponents is better than it has been. And this is really his junior year of college basketball, even though he's a senior. But everything is slowing down for him, and I'm excited for him. I think he's going to have a big year for us and our program.
The psychology of how you handle a team when they go through the heartbreak of reaching a championship game and coming up short, and particularly with you taking over as head coach, is it a nurture thing? Do you pretend like it never happened? Do you use it to fuel? Like what is the psychology for you as a coach of handling something like that?
A great question, something I think about at all hours of the day, and I'm going to continue to think about, because I'm always wondering what the pulse of the team is, right? I'm asking myself that a million times a day. And my gut has told me, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do, time will tell, but it's to talk about it and make it part of our everyday and who we are and what we're aspiring to be. Now, ultimately, we can only control our attitude and our effort and our response to things. And those three things are really, really important, not just in the game of basketball, but life. But we've got to show up every day. We've got to be everyday guys. We're trying to do our jobs. We're trying to work hard, and we're always trying to put the team first. And if we can do those three things consistently, I think we'll be able to play our best basketball, when it matters most. And we're just trying to get really good at doing common things in uncommon ways, and be really fundamentally sound in the basics of the game.
I think about toward the end of last season, when you guys started playing well, it kind of coincided when Mike Woods started to play a little bit more for you guys. I know he's your team captain this year. He had that great game with the 7 steals against Loyola in the regular season finale. Had another 8 steals in the conference tournament. How much behind the scenes and in terms of intangibles does he give you, and how important is he for this year's team?
Yeah, he's our captain. The team is behind him. Unanimous decision. He gives us purpose. He gives us direction. He gives us motivation on a daily basis. And that doesn't just happen. I tell the guys all the time, captains act like captains before they're nominated as captains. And he's been working on this from the time he was at Naps until now being a senior. So really, he's a 5th-year guy for us. He's trusted. He takes initiative. He uses great judgment. He never compromises our standards. He empowers others. He speaks with conviction. I can't say enough good things about him. And I think ultimately he just leads by example. And that is the best thing that you can have when you've got a person like him.
You have such a veteran team and guys that have defined, carved roles, but is there someone, whether it's a newcomer or that you could just see stepping into maybe a larger role this season, Coach?
Yeah, I think everybody's got to step up if we want to be Patriot League regular season champions, and we don't want to be a preseason story. We want to be a postseason story. So, being ranked number 1 is great. There's a lot of great coaches in this league. There's a lot of talent, a lot of new talent. The league's going to be really good. And I think it's going to all work itself out later down the road. But we're just going to kind of focus on what we can control on a daily basis.
Everybody, every year we had the conversation with Ed about what the Veterans Classic has meant. This is the first time we've been able to talk to you about it. But obviously it's the first home game you're playing. But more than that, you've been a part of this event since its inception. What does it mean to you to be the head coach at Navy for an event like this, an opportunity for so many around the sport to see the academy, to see what it is that your kids do every day?
It's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege. I mean, this is a dream job for me, and I'm going to try to do everything I can for this program and these players and the staff. To be able to host these 3 teams, don't really have words for it. I mean, they're going to experience the Naval Academy in a way that others don't get to do, with the static displays and watching formation and doing some leadership development and eating lunch in King Hall with the students and learning the ins and outs and their stories on why they chose to do what they're doing for our country. It's just a really unique setting. It's the 12th year of it. And I think it's an opportunity for the town of Annapolis, who's super supportive of us and our program, to come into Alumni Hall on Friday night, November 7th, and watch 2 great games. And Coach Jones at Yale's got a wonderful team returning, and I think they've got a chance to win the Ivy again. And, I think it's going to be a great first test for us.
I know when we talked over the summer, one of the things we discussed was, Air Force coming to town on December 7th, the first time Navy and Air Force have played in basketball in 20 years, and the possibility of maybe you could have a Commander-in-Chief's trophy type of thing for the service academies. How cool would that be, you think, and is there any kind of movement on that at this point?
Yeah, it was one of the things that I wanted to try to do. When I got the job, and Coach Scott was great in the scheduling of it. And, we were able to find a date, and they were willing. It worked for their, scheduling's harder these days because with the transfer portal, now people aren't really starting to schedule until June or July. And in the past, whenever I first got into college basketball 23 years ago, schedules were done by January at the latest, right? And so being able to make it work this year was wonderful. We look forward to keeping the series going. And, if there's a way that we can get all 3 of us to align, I'd be all for it.
That'd be really cool. That would be really cool. All right, Patrick, I apologize because I'm going to nerd out for a second. Coach, I was informed that you're a Dave Matthews Band guy.
I am.
So I don't like talking about this, but in my 20s, in my teenage years, I saw the Dave Matthews Band 100 times. This is not something that I talk about. Yeah, it's been much less frequently. I did see him at Merriweather in the summer, but much less frequently. So give me your go-to. You go to a Dave Matthews show. What are the 3 songs that you're hoping are on the set list?
Oh man, Dreaming Tree.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Love it, and he never hardly plays it.
No.
Crash and Crush.
I mean,
sure.
Crush is iconic. This is controversial in this group. I am a big fan of the Everyday record, and I love So Right, and I love Angel. Those are 2 of my favorite songs. And he closed at Merriweather with Granny, which is one of my favorites as well. So.
Oh man, I was on the road, and Stacy and I couldn't make the Merriweather show, but 100. You got me beat there. I've seen him a bunch.
I don't like saying that out loud because
no, that's good. That's a good thing.
No, I lost a lot of my life. I lost a lot of my life traveling around with buddies in the summer in my college years, seeing Dave Matthews Band. Coach, oh boy, that was a shameful thing. Shameful thing to say.
I can't top it.
No, you're gonna go to 600 basketball games this year. So
Glenn, one thing I'm really looking forward to one day, hopefully, is Stacy and I have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, both girls, beautiful, blessed. Being able to take them to a Dave show will be really cool.
Is this something that the 2 of you shared, you and your wife? That was something that.
Yeah, she wasn't as big a fan, whenever we first started dating.
Yeah.
But she was a fan, and, it's just, it's one of those things that we just enjoy doing, cool. And he's just, I think, I grew up listening to the Eagles and the Doobie Brothers and a lot of the classics too, because music was always on in our home or on the farm where we were always playing. We're working outside, music was playing. And so, I think the older Dave gets, the better he gets. And some people disagree, but I don't know. I just love music in general.
Miss Leroy for sure. That one was noticeable. Different. I'll tell you, I took, he's now 8, my then 7-year-old. I took him last summer to see OAR. It was his first real concert that he went to.
Been to some of those shows too.
Yeah, and he had a great time. Again, as we mentioned, the Veterans Classic going to be your first opportunity to see Navy at home this season as they'll take on Yale in game number 2. Tulsa, Rhode Island before that. Just an awesome night to enjoy some basketball down in Annapolis. Coach Jon Perry, looking forward to chatting with you more as the season goes on. Thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate you doing this.
Glenn, Patrick, always a pleasure. Go Navy, beat Army.
Thank you, sir. Coach Jon Perry, your thumbnail on the midshipman.
Should be one of the top teams in the Patriot League. When I said earlier that Towson was far and away the team most likely to make the NCAA tournament this year, I should have included Navy as sort of right there with them, just because they are super experienced. They came super close last year. You have all that continuity. The handoff was really well done last year, and so I think Navy's in position to be back in that last day of the tournament, last day of the season type of thing. And you've seen it enough over the years of teams that get close and then that just sort of pushes them over the top. I mean, you're not going to find a guard that knows the Patriot League as well as Austin Bonini does, a guy that is just utterly fearless. I don't know how much
you're saying he plays bigger than his size.
He absolutely plays bigger than his size, and so the number of times that guy hits the deck over the course of a season, just utterly fearless driving into the paint. Gets the foul line a ton. Last year, I think it was the Patriot League semifinal against Bucknell. He became like the one of two Navy players with 20 free throws, or tied a free throw record for the school. David Robinson said it. So
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty good company to be keeping there. So I think a really interesting team. They do have to deal with expectations though.
Yep.
And last year they were a team that were like. They played really poorly the first month or so of the season. I think they were 0-4 in the Patriot League, something like that. And so they were kind of playing free and loose, by the last month of the season, because what did you have to lose at that point? There's going to be a little bit more of a target on them this season. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that. Interesting games that they've got in non-conference play. They go to Carolina, and they go to Penn State in November.
Did you do a college basketball themed tidbit, Griffin?
Of course I did.
That's what I figured. So we'll do that. We'll save tubular. Here's the way this is going to work. We know you want to talk about Lamar Jackson return to practice yesterday. We're going to wrap up the college basketball show, and then we're going to come back in about 20 minutes after that, and then we're going to do picks, and we're going to do some of the GCR stuff that we haven't done. I'll throw tubular into that. But since you did a college basketball themed tidbit, we'll go ahead and do that now. What do you got for us?
There are 7 coaches that have reached 6 or more Final Fours. So, 7 coaches. Of course.
What are you, a child? What? 6, 7, Lord.
Well, that's what I was reading it quickly, and it was...
So it's 7 coaches?
Yes.
7 active coaches that have made 6 Final Fours?
No, not
all
active.
time.
All time.
7.
This isn't going to be hard.
All right. Well,
if we it's 12 coaches if we want to make it 5. There's another 5.
Let's do that.
12 with 5.
12 with 5 Final Four appearances.
Okay. Well, John Wooden obviously is.
He would be number 2. 12 Final Fours for Coach Wood.
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith is number 3 with 11.
Mike Krzyzewski.
Mike Krzyzewski is number 13, or has 13.
Has
number
13.
1. Yeah.
Tom Izzo has been to at least 5.
Yes, most active.
What's that
going
to do for his legacy?
He's 5th all time.
5th all time.
So you're missing number 4 right now.
Okay. We're talking 5+ Hall of Fame or 5+ Final Four appearances.
I'm gonna wait till you get one wrong before I try to throw a guess in.
Roy Williams has been to 5.
He's been to 9.
Okay.
5 with North Carolina.
Okay.
4 with Kansas.
4 with Kansas. Let's see. So I've got 5 of these guys now,
yes.
and need another 7 to go to get. Bob Knight would have surely done.
He's been to 5.
Okay. See, I'm writing these things down, so it's taking some time for me to think through all of these things. Regional. I'm just sort of regionally thinking about this right now. Has Bill Self been to 5 at this point?
He has not.
Okay.
Where's Bill Self?
Bill Self's been 4.
Bill Self's been to so he has been to 4. They pulled one of them was apparently they don't count, but so 3.
Okay.
But
well, we'll throw Calipari in there.
Yeah.
So yes, technically he's been to 6, but they've removed 4. The ones with UMass they've removed 2. The ones with UMass and Memphis apparently don't count. But yeah, he's been to 6, so technically 13.
What about Patino?
Patino has been to 5 that stand.
Okay.
He's been to 7 total.
Going back.
I'm trying to make sure I didn't anybody else. Yeah, okay. I think
this goes back. We're talking about going back to like the 50s and stuff, right? Or is this?
For one of the guys, yes.
I mean, I would think Adolph Rupp had been to that.
Yeah. Rupp 6 between 1942 and 1966.
What about Boeheim?
Boeheim, yes, he's been to 5.
Okay. And then Patrick's probably going to tell me I'm wrong. Jim Calhoun?
Calhoun's only been 4.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just always won.
If
he got there, he won.
When he got there, they won. I mean, that was kind of the theme there for a good long while.
09 they didn't win, right? Is that?
09 was Carolina. That was in fact the game the year Tom Izzo lost the title game that we just referenced. Guy V. Lewis had 5.
Yes,
Houston?
he did. Yep, 5 for Guy Lewis.
5 Slamma Jamma.
And the Elvin Hayes teams of the late 60s.
That's right. How many we need?
We need 2 more. Yes.
How about Denny Crum?
Denny Crum, yes, has been to 6 with Louisville.
Okay. Well, that's 12, by the way.
So I added Calipari. Yeah,
okay.
I added Calipari.
Okay. The did count, didn't count thing. Yeah. That whole deal.
So yeah, technically 13 on this. With coaches that have been to 5 Final Fours.
Not Jay Wright.
No, not Jay Wright.
He only had 4. He only had the 4.
4 for Jay Wright at Nova.
5 Final Fours.
Billy Donovan?
Not Billy Donovan. 4 for Billy Donovan.
Lord.
He went to 5 between 1980 and 2001.
That's Lute Olson. I was wondering if I couldn't remember whether he had gotten 4 Arizonas or just 3.
4, yep, 4
Arizonas. The 4 Arizonas, there was obviously 01, there was 97, there was 94, I think, and then the other one was 88.
Of course.
You're looking at it, I think.
Of course, he knows exactly
and
what
one
year.
with Iowa.
One with Iowa.
Of course, he knows that. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he know that? At Discourse, D1 S Course, and Blue Ribbon. Make sure you pick that up right now. And you have your early season schedule planned out for where you're going to be?
Yeah, Georgetown, Morgan State for opening night. I think I'm going to catch that non-1, that UMBC opener on Tuesday. Still kind of figuring out what I want to do on Wednesday, but thinking about making a trip up to Philly to see Coppin play up at LaSalle.
Oh, wow.
They play 2 days later. Loyola has a non-1 on Thursday of that week, and then Georgetown, Maryland on Friday. It's hard to pass that up. There's some really appealing games,
including the Veterans Classic, right?
Especially the Veterans Classic. But hard to pass up on Georgetown at Maryland. They got TV did them no favors with that 6 o'clock start on a Friday.
Bad. It's so bad. Not a day. Oh, it's going to be a miserable experience for people trying to get to that game. But
take a half day.
Yep, that's what you're going to have to do. And take a half day and leave.
Leave at 1 o'clock.
When you leave the office, go right there. Just go right there, because if you leave any later, you're going to be boned. Patrick, looking forward to doing this again throughout the course of the season. And we'll get back into playing our game as well. We're doing 3-team guys. We're mixing it up in order to get some new guys into the mix. Looking forward to doing that again moving forward. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
We will take a pause, and then we'll be back in a few minutes, do a little football stuff for you on a truncated Glenn Clark radio edition coming up in just a couple of minutes.